Okay, it's my pleasure to open this thematic track on the Smart Readiness Indicator. Sorry for the delay. We needed some time so that people could arrive. So our apologies to the online audience. But let's start now. First of all, I'm Sophie Dourlans-Carantard, working for R2M Solutions in France. I'm also representing the SRI support team that's working for the European Commission, DG Energy, supporting the Commission and the Member States in the testing and the implementation of the SRI. So we have this session with four main parts. So first, there will be an introduction that I have the pleasure to moderate with the speakers that are here and that I will introduce very soon. Then we will have two sessions with EU projects co-funded by the LIFE program, but also by the Horizon program. And finally, we will have the viewpoints of stakeholders. We'll have a panel debate, and we'll have some closing words from Brainbox AI or sponsor of the event. So let's start with the first part, the introduction. So you can see the speakers that we have for this part. So we are starting with an introduction from Pierre-Antoine Vernon from CINEA. He's going to explain the support of the LIFE program and the sub-program on the clean energy transition to smart buildings and the smart readiness indicator. Pierre-Antoine.
Thank you. Good morning from my side as well. So my name is Pierre-Antoine Vernon. I work for the European Commission Executive Agency, CINEA, and I'm going to try to give an overview of our presence at Sustainable Places 2025. Maybe to start by saying that this is not our first participation at Sustainable Places. I had the pleasure to come, I think, at the edition 2017, if I'm not mistaken. So it's very, very good to be back this year. I represent here my agency, CINEA, but most specifically the LIFE program, which you may know more for its work on environment and the fight against climate change. I personally work for the sub-program on clean energy transition, which has been created more recently and which kind of is put on an equal footing as the other programs managed by the agency, although we are quite smaller in size. We are one of the programs supporting the clean energy transition in Europe, along with our colleagues from Horizon Europe, but also the Innovation Fund and other schemes managed by the agency. So in this program, what do we do? What is our purpose? It is to support the clean energy transition in Europe at EU level, and that means very much support the implementation of the Renewable Energy Directive, the directive on energy efficiency, and on the energy performance of buildings, all of which have been recast recently. To be more precise, we focus on breaking the bottlenecks that are preventing technologies to hit the market, be they technological, economical, or regulatory. We support the investments in clean energy transition. We support the building of capacity at personal level, skills, regional level, and also at national level. And we try to put the citizen at the center of the energy transition. So we have the pleasure to have quite many projects participating in this conference, representing the majority of the, let's say, focus areas that we support. As you can see, the gray boxes on the slide are the areas that are represented at the conference. To be more precise, we have district heating and cooling and heat pumps that will be represented, more district heating and cooling with its dedicated session. Maybe the most represented focus area will be that on building renovation and smartness, unsurprisingly, with a very interesting session on building renovation in practice, as well as this thematic track that we are getting started today with several events throughout today and tomorrow. And also some of our projects on industry and businesses are represented. We have policy projects participating sometimes with their own session. And we have a very interesting session that combines finance and local authorities that will, I think, be in this auditorium this afternoon. We are not only represented through workshops, we wanted to have also a sort of official presence through a stand. So this is the picture of my head of unit, Hans Rhein, from last year. He's not here this year, but my colleague Maria and myself will be. So feel free to come and say hi and ask questions if you have any. And don't forget to follow us or try to get informed via the different means that we have at your disposal to stay up to date with the clean energy transition in Europe.
Thank you so much, Pierre-Antoine, for setting the scene. And I'm continuing, so I'm taking the floor for a moment in order to explain what the SRI is and where does it come from. We assume in this session that most of you are already very familiar, if not expert, with the SRI, but just in case there are also some newcomers to the topic, I'm explaining really quickly. So the motivation for the SRI is to promote smart technologies in the building sector, and the benefits of smart technologies are represented on this drawing. Smart technologies can facilitate energy efficiency, energy flexibility, but also health, comfort, etc. The SRI was developed years ago. In fact, it started 8 years ago with a first technical study conducted for the European Commission. Then it was introduced in the directive on the energy performance of building. There was a second study. There were some regulations specifying the SRI methodology and the modalities also for testing the SRI with member states. These test phases by member states started a couple of years ago, and now we have the revised version of the directive, which has reinforced the SRI that is expected to become mandatory in the upcoming years. Talking about test phases, you can see here on this map the countries that have launched an official test phase of the SRI, and Italy is one of them, and we are very lucky to have CINEA that will present briefly the test phase in Italy. So 16 in total, so more than the half of the EU member states are currently or have already closed their test phase. Very briefly, how does it work? So the SRI is an assessment scheme that evaluates how a building can satisfy three main functionalities. The first one is on the efficiency of the building operation, so the energy savings that can be ensured by smart technologies, but also the maintenance aspect is taken into account. There's also the second pillar on the occupants of the building, how smart technologies can improve their comfort, how they can be also more convenient, how they can improve health in particular via improvement in air quality, for instance. How also they can allow providing information to the occupants. And the third pillar that is super important is the capacity of each building to provide flexibility service to the energy system. These functionalities are assessed on smart ready services that belong to the technical domains that you can see here. So heating, cooling, domestic hot water, etc., but also electric vehicle charging, also the dynamic building envelope, etc. So these services, I will just give 2 examples of such services, are assessed, and it is calculated to what extent they can contribute to energy savings, energy flexibility, but also comfort, convenience, etc. So one example of a smart ready service, so this one, it is in the ventilation domain. So you can see the non-smart level of this service is that there is no ventilation or there is a ventilation with manual control. Then it is smarter if there is also cloak control. It is even smarter if there is occupancy detection control. Even smarter if there is a central demand control based on air quality sensors, and the smartest level corresponds to local demand control. Similarly, for window solar shading control, that is super important for summer comfort. At level 0, there is no shading control or only manual operation. Level 1, the blinds, for instance, are motorized. Level 2, there is automatic control based on sensor data. Level 3, it's combined with the HVAC control system. And finally, the smartest level, there are also some predictive blind control systems, so typically based on weather forecast. So these are just 2 examples. There are about 50 services in total covering the 9 technical domains. But instead of detailing more my presentation, I'm giving the floor to the next speakers. So we have Antonello Magliozzi from Arcadis and Francesco Rovere from AXA, because we are going to talk of the building we are in at the moment, because it's a smart building. It has a lot of certifications. It has participated also in an EU project. The SRI assessment exists, so we think it's much more interesting to have this. So let's welcome our next speakers. Thank you.
Thank you to all of you. I'm Francesco Rovere, so in charge from AXA of the development of this asset where you are. Probably, I don't know if most of you know this asset was built more or less 20 years ago. It was designed by Renzo Piano workshop for a single client. When we were coming here 9 years ago, the asset was pretty vacant or ready to be fully vacated. And so typical, say, real estate matters. What we do, and the idea was to create the first urban campus in Milan. This is one of the most, say, known assets with some pros and cons of a matter of reputation to be managed. And the main, say, driver was to make it, say, state of art in terms of ESG compliance. As AXA IM, we were implementing corporate, say, guidelines on ESG 15 years ago, almost 20. So we had, say, a quite substantial track record on that. And the opportunity was to implement all our knowledge and, let's say, capability on an existing asset that has been, let's say, fully refurbished, full repositioning of in terms of real estate, reputation, amenities, services, and so on. And of course, in terms of ESG, we have implemented a number of certification. We were completing the refurbishment 2 years ago, but as probably part of the lesson learned, despite being, let's say, a real estate industry, is never, let's say, true that an asset is as it is. It's a continuous effort on improving day by day, I would say, what is, let's say, the quality of the asset itself, how it's used, how it works, so the operation, and even, let's say, a short, medium, and long-term strategy. And so the opportunity in, say, an additional stage was with Antonello and Arcadis, and so the team to implement an additional, let's say, step. So the SRI was something that we were not honestly thinking about in the past, honestly. Personally, I didn't know at all. But I think that for a proper, say, landlord today, the curiosity is a matter of everyday, say, matters at the very end of the day. And so the result, I think, was positive, or at least our curiosity was in some way satisfied. And probably part of the lesson learned is that we never, say, stop to learn about, say, this kind of matters and to implement our strategy. And so thank you again for being here today.
Thank you, Francesco, for the introduction. Thank you for giving the opportunity for making the assessment of your building. I'm Antonio Magliozzi. I'm from Arcadis, and I'm representing the Smart Square project here. And then I would like to show very briefly what we implemented for this building. The activities that we implemented is part of, I would say, general activities assessment that we implemented in the Smart Square project. So we implemented many SRI assessment in many buildings. So for understanding the status quo of the market for this purpose. And what we understand that the buildings normally has got a score that is, I would say, not so high. So you can see in this picture that we have the class G, a class F, like the mostly representative of the SRI assessment we implemented. So we exploited the idea of the smart ready community, which is I would say, a step further. So for understanding how we can apply the SRI when we have a complex building like the one we are now. And so the idea is to consider different, I would say, cluster within the same buildings. And that's why the first exercise was to understand how we can consider in this building different units with similar functionalities. And so as you can see in this picture, the building has different zones with co-working spaces, meeting rooms, and of course auditorium, cafeteria, lobby, and also retail shop. So we applied, of course, the methodology and the procedure that is established for making the SRI assessment. So discovering and also understanding about the building features. And then we discovered, I would say, the SRI community score, considering the different score associated at the different, I would say, cluster part of this building. And I would say, another exercise we did here for understanding that how we can improve the score, because the SRI is not just, I would say, an exercise that we do when the building is done, but it makes sense also to consider this when you are at the design stage. We also considered what we can do for improving the score. And of course, the pain point here was the energy flexibility and storage. And then our exercise was to think about retrofitting activities. Of course, we proposed these activities to the building owner for understanding if it is possible to implement, and maybe in the future this will be. And at the end of the day, making some retrofitting activities, also considering some, I would say, intervention, we can, I would say, rise the score from the 56%, which is actually a very good score because, compared to the benchmark, this is a very good score, and to rising to 74%. I think the time is done, but I would like to say just one word about our activities. Within the SRI, it's not just an exercise related to, I would say, the law requirement. This is belonging also to the ESG ecosystem. That's why we implemented also the SROI assessment connected to the retrofitting activity. SROI, another acronym, means the social returning of investment. Yes, right, it's not just about energy efficiency, also about the social engagement, also the social awareness and also comfort. That's why in this case, if we investing for retrofitting, I would say 1 million, we can have 1.5 million of social returning of investment. This is also another good parameter connected to the ESG topic. So I would like to end my intervention, say that I'm very happy that our journey in the SRI is not finishing here, because our project Smart Square is almost finished. We are continuing our journey together with R2M. I say thank you, R2M, for this wonderful venue organized. But we are continuing this journey with another project funded by Regione Lombardia. This is called D-Smart. And this is also important because we will develop at the local level, I would say, also informing different stakeholders about the SRI, the new methodology that comply with the EPD, also, of course, of the procedure, but also considering the local situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation and illustration of SRI assessment. And indeed, what you have presented on the flexibility aspect, that is the most maybe tricky, the most difficult. It's very representative of also other buildings that are being assessed in Europe. So now I'm giving the floor to Luca Lanotte, CINEA, sorry. He's going to present the test phase in Italy. Thank you, Luca.
Good morning. Thanks to the organizers for the kind invitation. I will show you some key points of the SRI test phase in Italy. Test phase is conducted by the Ministry of Environment and Energy Security with the full support of ENEA. Generally, the test phase aims to verify the applicability of the SRI technical framework in the Italian context. I have to mention that some activities of the test phase is also conducted within the national projects and the LIFE project Tunis. This is the timeline. The test phase was launched in March 25 and will end in February 26 with a report to European Commission and SRI support team. During the first month, ENEA involves several stakeholders with collaboration activities and so on. In June, an activity on the development of an SRI web platform has been started. And in the last month, we started with targeted trainings and the SRI assessment. Obviously, during all this year, ENEA is is interested to promote the test phase, the launch, the results. This slide just to show what kind of stakeholders we have involved, and there are standardization bodies, companies, individual professionals, industry associations, university that are working on this topic in Italy, and also professional bodies. In the initial phase, stakeholders help us by filling out a survey to analyze the state of the art of technology currently available on the market. And these slides show the overview of all the services, so the catalog service of SRI framework. And there are some services and functionality levels that are poorly diffused or non-implementable. These in the last cases involve services and functionality levels related to the interaction of the grid. We are talking about this before. And we are working on the development of an SRI web platform in collaboration with digital application in our department, energy efficiency department. Web platform will serve both as a tool to calculate, to assess SRI, and also as data centralization for CINEA. These are just preliminary screenshots. About the SRI assessment, we declare to the European Commission that at least 30 assessments will be carried out, but they will be more, surely. With case study covering different uses and climatic zones in Italy. If possible, we want to focus on non-residential buildings with nominal power over than 290 kilowatts since the first obligation. We are applying the European calculation sheet, method B, only method B. And there is also an activity to evaluate possible adaptation of the calculation sheet to the Italian context. For example, by revising weightings, considering Italian climatic zones. And for CINEA, it's also very important to standardize the assessment procedure. So at the end, we have an average SRI based on a representative number of case study, and the SRI of some exemplary cases to understand the maximum score that SRI can achieve. The last two slides are about the first results. I show here some 3 office buildings located in Milan. And they are exemplary cases because they started with some advanced level of smartness. We are considered all domains mandatory, so are in the worst case actually, and the overall score of SRI is about 40%, I think, in line with the data I saw before in the previous speaker. And this is the overall SRI. Obviously, the SRI is penalized by about the 3 key functionality: the building performance, interaction with the user, interaction with the grid. The interaction with the grid is quite low. And yes, thank you for attention.
Thank you very much. So with this presentation, we are closing the introductory session. We are also trying to catch up on the time. So let's continue immediately with the next session. So thank you very much to the speakers. So there's another group of speakers that's now coming on stage. The session is moderated by Dimitris Athanasiou. He's a senior energy expert at IECP and also the coordinator of the SRI to Market project. Thank you, Dimitris.
Good morning, everybody. Many thanks, Sophie. So, give me 1 second, please. Please, do not be afraid. So again, good morning, everybody. So thank you very much for this invitation. My name is Dimitris Athanasiou, and yes, I'm the coordinator of SRI to Market project. I'm very pleased and honored to be here in this event, to this big event actually about smartness in buildings in general, but also the Smart Readiness Indicator uptake. Following the previous session, which gave us, let's say, the overall framework of the SRI and, let's say, the political framework behind it, now we will try to dig a little bit further, a little bit deeper, and we can see how we can actually implement in practice the SRI to market, the SRI indicator, the Smart Readiness Indicator with the EU-funded LIFE project. It is important. Okay, yes. I think that, yes, we can all agree that Smart Readiness Indicator is a very significant tool that can actually provide and give a significant boost to the digitalization of our building stock. But it's not easy to happen on top of, coherent regulatory framework at EU and national level. And I'm talking about the transposition that, will soon has to happen at national level. We also need to ensure that we have proper implementation on the ground. This is super important. And for this to happen, the holistic approach is necessary. It's not easy to do it without, all the dots being connected. We need links with other policies. We need stakeholders engagement. We need to make sure that all the tools are there. We need to see that interoperability and other technical issues are aligned. This is exactly what the SRI projects try to serve, try to provide. And my personal opinion, being a coordinator of the SRI to Market project, is that the proactive framework that the Commission put in place with technical support provided by the SRI platform, together with all the promotion of the volunteer SRI national test phases and the development of the live SRI cluster, which brought together all the different sister SRI projects, as we call it, already provides, the base for a proper implementation on the ground. Now, in this session, the idea is to, as I said, to see how everything works in practice and how the SRI projects actually supported all this implementation. We want to see, not in deep details and with many details, how the projects develop all the tools, but we mostly want in this session to focus on the experience we had through the projects, the lessons learned, and things like that. If you want to have more information and dig further into the tools developed, all the other, specific elements developed through the projects, there's going to be, in the next session after the coffee break, I think that we can also see in details all the tools developed, but also remember that there is also a workshop later this afternoon about the SRI tools provided by the projects, but also a paper session tomorrow morning. So we're going to have in this session, we're going to have, let's say, two different slots. The first slot will be with three experts from SRI projects. It's going to be Maria Bonetta from CINEA. We're going to have Pablo Canero from REPA, and then finally Paraskia Vasco-Karas from CERT, representing different projects. And then we're going to move with open discussion, let's say roundtable discussion with 3 more experts. But okay, let's start first with the first set of presentations. We're gonna start with our first speaker will be Maria Bonetta from CINEA. Maria is an expert. Let's see, Maria is a senior energy efficiency engineer and research project manager at CINEA, the National Renewable Energy Center of Spain. She also serves as the technical coordinator of Spain's official SRI testing phase, supporting the ministry for this test phase. And this is actually what we wanted to hear from Maria today. We want to see in practice actually how the test phase in Spain actually evaluated, and with more, let's say, elements about the stakeholder engagement. Maria, let's start with a short overview of the SRI to Market project, and then maybe we can, follow up with the stakeholder.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dimitris, for your kind introduction, and good morning, everyone. Let me check. Okay. Okay, it is a pleasure. Sorry. It's a pleasure to take the floor today to present the Sell to Market project, which is one of the 4 initiatives funded by the LIFE program under the call 2021 Smart Ready, dedicated to supporting the implementation of the Smart Readiness Indicator. The project started, sorry, maybe better, yeah. The project started in November 2022 and is now reaching its conclusion in October 2025, this month. Throughout these 3 years, our main objective has been to bridge the gap between the Smart Readiness Indicator as a policy instrument and its practical uptake in the market by demonstrating its value for building owners, professionals, and policymakers across Europe. Well, the project scope covers 7 countries, EU countries, as you can see: Portugal, Spain, France, Austria, Croatia, Greece, and Cyprus. The project's objectives are mainly supporting the target countries in the introducing the SRI instrument into their national regulations. And this includes developing tools and training programs, setting up pilots, and providing recommendations for effective SRI upgrades. Well, one of its main outcomes is the SRI to Market tool suite, comprising 2 platforms, an e-learning platform and an assessment platform. Both are free and accessible via the links and QR codes provided on this slide. I invite you all to scan these QR codes and try out the tools. Later in this session, I will provide more details on the SRI to Market e-learning itinerary and the associated platform. And this afternoon, I will provide a tour through the assessment platform during the workshop, our workshop. But for now, however, I will address Dimitri's question. Another relevant aspect of the project that has actively contributed to the stakeholder engagement is the creation of national SRI communities. These are 6 LinkedIn pages in total, covering 7 countries and 6 languages. They communicate all relevant SRI aspects in national languages, enable closer communication with the national context. Well, regarding the Spanish pilot, as Dimitris asked, although the project involves 6 different pilots, I would like to introduce the Spanish pilots as an example. This involved different levels of stakeholder involvement. The SRI committee, as you say, in the center, involved stakeholders and informed stakeholders. More than 30 entities are currently involved in the Spanish pilot through the SRE to Market national group of experts, including the Ministry for the Ecological Transition and the Demographic Challenge of Spain. Our national energy agency is the IDAE, the Institute for Diversification and Energy Savings, research institutions, universities, professional associations, manufacturers of smart technologies, the electricity market operator is involved, also the Spanish standardization body, EPB experts, and so on. The students community has also been important to us. According to our training itinerary, we expect to achieve more than 260 SRE users, almost 150 SRE beginners, and more than 60 SRE experts, since, okay, we have some submissions still pending for correction. Well, this stakeholder mapping providing feedback on the Spanish pilot at 3 levels. Enable us to gather the information required to support and report on the Spanish testing phase. We cover aspects such as carrying out SRE assessment, providing feedback on the effort required, and verifying the justification for functionality selections. We also evaluated and quantified the effort required to become an SRE expert, as well as the difficulties and common mistakes identified by experts and other technicians. We have also evaluated the adequacy of the methodology for the national context, and the communication channels included the available platforms I mentioned before, such as input forms, comment sections, the Q&A forum, and surveys, as well as several working sessions with experts and live sessions with students. This enables a continuous quality check procedure to ensure the training materials and assessment platform were adequate and aligned with real market needs. Sorry, no. Maybe.
Maria, just wanted, thanks a lot for this, let's say, clear overview of the project, but also mostly for the Spanish case. I think, in my opinion, that I know from first hand that amazing efforts in both the project and the Spanish pilot phase. But let's dig a little bit further on, stakeholder engagement and what we can get from the pilot case, the pilot test phase with regards to stakeholder engagement. How important was that for the success, let's say?
Yeah, it has been instrumental. The engagement of stakeholders to disseminate and communicate the SRE instrument has been key in the development of this work. So, additionally, I have prepared some lessons learned and possible recommendation in your national context after, extracted from the Spanish case, the Spanish pilot, and the Spanish testing phase. In our view, live projects have been instrumental in taking the next steps for national deployment of the SRE. It's very important a well-structured timeline of the testing phase, the stakeholder engagement procedure, but also with the milestones of the project. In our case, the SRE to Market project. Engaging these stakeholders through the national group of experts was essential, as I said, in supporting the Spanish testing phase. The tools, the SRE to Market tool suite, comprising the e-learning platform and assessment tool, has been the main tool used by experts and other stakeholders to support the dialogue and the test phase. Well, more than 150 buildings have been assessed with this tool. Then also participation for us, the participation at national level on national platforms, fairs, and conference has enabled the new concept to be disseminated and communicated to professionals to professionals who had not heard about the SRA before. Impossible otherwise, in our view. These actions have created a multiplier effect. For instance, after participation in these fairs or of conference, the heads of professional associations have expressed, contact us and express their interest for require additional information or prepare a specific webinar for their associates. So consider the different levels of expertise is crucial to ensuring a deep understanding of this new instrument. And it's very important for us understanding needs of the market, of the professionals, of the potential SRA assessors, for instance, from the EPC assessors. So listen first, design second, and the evaluation and the testing in the real world has been essential for evaluate and refine the tools, the platform, and the methodology. So some numbers about our pilot in Spain, I have already mentioned regarding the organization involved. We have maintained 7 meetings with high-level authorities. We had 4 working sessions with national experts. We have participated in around 16 workshops, events, congress or fairs, and 4 training sessions with national stakeholders. So for the launching of the national, for the launching of the services at national level, the national workshop conducted by us in Spain was attended by 270 professionals, and its recording has been already visualized by almost 2,000 people. So, okay, we are, yeah, thank you very much because I am on time. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Maria. Impressive indeed. And, I think that is a message that stakeholder, that, stakeholder engagement is not just a tick in a box. It's like, as you said, a multiplier. It has a multiplier effect, and also, it can be really a driver for success. Now, let's move to our next speaker. It's Pablo Carnero from Smart Square Project. And Pablo will focus on another critical aspect, training, standardization, all this stuff, and how we need to have, let's say, a standard procedure and consistency. Pablo holds a Master of Engineering in Energy and Sustainable Development and works as a consultant for EFPA. Pablo, I know that you are very experienced and you work with many projects and you try to exploit all the results. So let's first have a brief description of what the project is about, and let's elaborate a little bit more with regards to the standardized procedures. Okay, thanks.
All right. Hello, everyone. As Dimitri said, I'll be representing the Smart Square project. You see, this is the only slide that I will show about what the project is. The project is about to close. Most of you in the room have already heard about it, and if not, we'll be around. So also, for the sake of time, just seeing a map, the logos, we're usual suspects by now. I would like to give a quick overview on the main exploitable results that the project produced. Today, I will focus on several of them, but at different times during the whole day. So we developed the SRI Observatory, also an SRI FAQ, which was in our contract before the SRI support team developed theirs, so probably now feels a bit redundant, but it didn't when the proposal was written. We have the Smart Ready Go, that is the assessment tool that the project developed. We have the SEM workshop agreement. This is what I will focus on today's presentation. And we developed also a virtual training center. So I'm assuming that the slides will be shared afterwards. So the embedded links are throughout. So if you just click there, you will be directed to the relevant resource. But like Dimitri said, I'm focusing now on the standardization of the Smart Readiness Assessment. And we believe this is crucial because unlike the EPCs when they first were, let's say, developed, there is the intention from the start to have the SRI as a common European assessment. And for the Smart Square project, common European assessment means a standardization. So that is why the project, to say, proudly developed the first standardization document on the SRI. So it's the same workshop agreement that you see there referenced on the screen. It is crucial that the process is also briefly understood, and that's what I'll try to do with the time that I'm giving now. The process is based on pre-existing standards, on the energy audits of buildings standards. So we didn't try to build everything from scratch, but rather to base our work into existing solid and robust frameworks that have already been around for quite some time. Three objectives, like I said, standardization for us, for Smart Square, was at the very center of ensuring that we have a common European scheme to assess the smartness. So it was crucial for consistency, also for transparency, as well as to be able to compare the SRIs of not only different buildings, but also different contexts, different countries, and trying to learn from the lessons that we all gather with the energy performance certificates in Europe. So briefly, what you will find in this document, which is publicly available, is a comprehensive description of the step-by-step smartness procedure as Smart Square understood it. So this is basically 7 steps that range from the preliminary contact with a potential asset manager, try to establish the aims, the time that is going to be dedicated, the level of thoroughness of the audit, and then walk through the different steps until you're able to gather all the data, conduct the complete assessment, and be able to convey the final results in a final report and a final meeting with a view to actually activate the action to improve the smartness of buildings, which is the ultimate goal of the SRI. So in the document, you will find dedicated clauses that describe the documentation and reporting guidelines that the project thought that it was a must-have when SRIs are conducted to instill trust in the market. You also have supporting information like templates, checklists that will guide you through the process, as well as step-by-step worked examples, also with the example of a tool and show the results and a template of what the final report might be. So we're confident that in this document you will find the most updated guidelines that any SRI assessor should consider at this moment. We also worked a bit more on the competencies for SRI experts, and I might be able to give more details later on. But yeah, we tried to create the formal requirements for SRI auditors, because we understand this is something that the member states have to do. They need to define the accreditation and the qualification requirements to be recognized as SRI experts in the different countries. So with a view to try to level the playing field, although we are very aware that Europe is quite diverse and in different countries there might be some differences, we try to outline some 6 key concepts that may steer the competences of SRI experts. So in the document, again, you will find some information about, let's say, the personal attributes, the skills in terms of communication, soft skills, if you will, that we think that SRI assessors should have to be able to conduct proper assessments. You will find also some indications, of course, of what is the ideal initial education that would already give some of the skills that we think are needed. You'll find some guidelines in terms of the work experience that may already be able to prove, let's say, those competences, even if partially. You'll find an overview of the knowledge and the skills. And this is quite, of course, extensive, and this is the core of what we're dealing at. The quality SRI assessments need to be made by people that are actual experts that know what they're doing, and they know the long-term implications beyond just issuing a certificate. Just like Antonella was saying earlier, also developing upgraded scenarios and to be able to activate that let's say, renovation wave also with a smartness component. Training and accreditation, spoiler, we'll have a later presentation today also on the training materials that Smart Square developed, and they're quite aligned with this work on the standardization. Yeah, and also, how to maintain it, how to improve the competence. We know that technology evolved quite quickly, and particularly the the smart technologies might be one of the ones that are rapidly evolving. So it is also crucial that not only you have the competences required today, but that you're able to evolve and continue to bring this value to the building stock in Europe in the following years as well. This is what I had, but there might be some questions. I don't know, the mic. Yeah.
Pablo?
Yep.
I just wanted to ask you if there are any, if this all enough or if there are any, necessary complementary, let's say, standardization activities needed that maybe can complement this amazing work, I think.
Well, I'm not probably the best person in the room, but I see that person is sitting somewhere up there. I noted in this slide the related initiatives that CEN/TC 247 is taking on topics that we consider that are very related to the work that we did, because the CEN Worship Agreement was published, and that was the end of the road as for Smart Square, because the project is ending at the end of this month. But we were very happy to see that there's a new work item in CEN/TC 247 that is uptaking, let's say, this preliminary standardization work, because although I described it here as very complete, very detailed, we acknowledge that this is just the first step, and this work will continue in the framework of CEN/TC 247. And I also outlined some other initiatives that we think that, although they don't have the standardized auditor for SRI assessments in the title, they're quite relevant. There's one on the competences that I briefly touched upon. Also, there's the checklist for compliance with the requirements. We, of course, understand that performing an SRI and justifying or verifying compliance with the technical building requirements related to the smart technologies, if you read the directive, are in principle two different things, but they both require for an auditor, for an assessor to visit the building to assess degree of implementation of certain enabling technologies. So why not thinking of combining them in the framework of a bigger auditing scheme? And the same goes for an improvement, let's say, of the functions of building automation control systems. And this is briefly touches on what I said, that technology is rapidly evolving. So there's no secret that new functionalities will appear, and we will all need to adapt to those. So if you're interested on this topic, I would request to follow this for initiatives. So yeah, that's that. That's what I had for you today.
Perfect. Interesting indeed. Thanks a lot, Pablo. I mean, standardization is crucial. The PPT provides for flexibility, but I think that it is also important that we have some consistency around the procedures. Okay, now let's move to our next speaker, who will be Paraskevas Koukaras from the EasySRI project. Paraskevas will talk to us and enlighten us a little bit about the tools, the assessment tools, and other supporting tools. Paraskevas is a postdoctoral research associate at CERT, and he is involved in many Horizon 2020 and LIFE projects, focusing on demand response and energy efficiency and well-being in buildings. So, Paraskevas, we all know that almost all projects have developed tools, many tools, assessment tools, training tools. I know that this is the case also for EasySRI. So can you please elaborate a little bit? So maybe start with a short, brief presentation of the project, and then let's see what other tools are in place. Thanks.
Sure, thanks. Thank you for the introduction, Dimitris. Paraskevas Koukaras here from CERT. As we already said, I would like to start by congratulating R2M for the organization of this wonderful event, and say a few words about the SRI tools and some lessons learned maybe later. So, briefly stated, the vision of EasySRI, our main goal was to make the SRI assessment as easy as possible, and that is the core, let's say, process that we try to develop. So we came up with an SRI wizard tool. Okay, most of the times we want to run some SRI assessments as experts, but our main goal here was also to allow people that are not experts to also be able to execute the assessments, maybe for their own homes, and see what are the benefits. As for the other goals of the project, we aim to create some new businesses according to the guidelines from the European Union and align with the needs from different member states. So we have real estate experts, we have the energy efficiency consulting. All these are some, let's say, new prospects for creating business. And then we have, as the other projects, and Dimitri said, we have, despite the SRI Wizard tool, we also have a recommendation system, a recommendation engine, or an investment portfolio, as we call it for EasySRI, that will make suggestions to the users of the platform on how they can increase the SRI score and what are the benefits for them. So another slide for EasySRI. Here you can see some pilot sites that we validated our platform. We ran initially the assessments to this one, but as we proceeded with our activities, at the moment we have more than 1,000 assessments all around Europe. Okay. Now, these are the tools supported by the European Union and the different fundings, let's say. You can hit the QR code up there, but I suppose most of you here, you're familiar with this site. We have the tools for member states that are engaged with the, the official SRI tests and are stated to the left, as you can see the slides: Smart Ready Go, SRI to Market, Easy SRI, and of course the SRI NACT. Most of them have concluded, or they are almost there to conclude, and more tools from other research projects and initiatives to your right. So what is the third core of all the tools? They all perform some assessments, of course, SRI assessments, some upgrade recommendations, of course, and scenarios and dashboards, customizable dashboards. Also, we have some, let's say, diversities between them. Some offer some unique characteristics compared to others, but these it can be the granularity of data that you can insert to them, the capabilities to export or import data to them, the market readiness, the TRLs, and so on and so forth. Now, about the tool of EasySRI. This is in one slide what it does, actually. You can store the building's data. You have an SRI calculation wizard. As I said, you can use it to run simplified assessments, or you can run detailed assessments, or even check the very simplified version, the SRI Express, that it is one innovation of EasySRI. Of course, we have the investment portfolio and the recommendation capabilities offered by this platform. We have a dashboard per user, but also a dashboard for the admin that can have access to all assessments from all users. And this is a powerful tool to enable, let's say, policy reporting and and exporting data. So here we can see the landing page. One addition that we did as we approach the end of the project is that the platform supports all 24 European official languages. Okay, some of them are have been validated. It means that it is it has been checked that everything is working as it should, but the rest of them are in beta version. Hopefully, we will be able to also finalize the validation for the rest of them. Here you can see a list of the buildings and the entries, the records that you insert your assessments. Here I would like to flag that for each buildings, you can track and create new SRI assessments, meaning that you can track the whole history of your building. The admin dashboard, here you can see, you can filter by the location of your building, and you can see a map, but also the averages per score. This is a snapshot of the investment portfolio, also the same style, buildings, and the optimization you performed. Here, the page of, sorry, of the manual, and a certification test. Yes, and very briefly, this is the SRI assistant. This is an LLM-powered chatbot. You can ask questions related to SRI and you can get prompt answers. And this is the SRI Express. Okay. That accelerates the SRI assessment and makes it much more easy. And yes, the value and how you can access this SRI platform. Once again, I put a QR code here. You can hit it and check the platform. Just remember that non-registered users don't have access to the full capabilities of the platform.
Thanks a lot. That was amazing overview, not just of your tool, but also for the other tools as well. We need to see in practice what we're going to do, but can you please elaborate a little bit on the problems that you faced during the development of these tools? What needs to be on a technical side, let's say, what needs to be carefully assessed, what needs to, for future implementation and development? What would be your experience? And maybe I know that you are also involved with this SRI Nexus that try to package all together. You can briefly also elaborate on this.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Dimitris, for this question. So as part of the clustering group, we came up, EasySRI undertook the role of, the technical, taking care of the technical issues we might face. So this is what I will discuss in the next slides. So in general, we have fragmented schemas for the SRI around, the member states. So this is a problem that will cause poor comparability of the results and the assessments. Then, as we were progressing with EasySRI and with the meetings with other projects, we also noticed that we have issues with the manual entry of data about the SRI, and when we also consider, this connection between BIM files and building logbooks, then we have issues. We need to make more improvements regarding this matter. Then the limitation of APIs. There is no standardized API to receive or, let's say, send SRI-related data to platforms, to external platforms, mostly. And this makes the usability of the SRI data quite difficult. And of course, last but not least, one issue is, the training burden when you want to onboard on different platforms and the related aspects. Now, as benefits, we establish, let's say, we try to establish consistent assessments and enable some auditing trails, of course, and this improves how fast you can assess the SRI in general. Then we have, through the recommendation systems, the budget forecasting for and the benefits for the homeowners, some KPIs, and also the integrations with different APIs that we came up with to help us with this endeavor. Now, some lessons learned, technical, about interoperability and integration. I will be very brief because we're running out of time, sorry. So we want to have well-documented APIs. We need to agree with common schemas in the next years, I suppose, to make things easier and enable an easier mapping between different tools. Also, it would be good to have SRI versioning capabilities, import and export at scale. So you might have someone that assesses many buildings. You should give him the capability to insert them all together. This is something that would be really good. Cross-tool comparisons and, of course, the support for multiple languages. So considering all these issues that we noticed as cluster, is SRI, SRI NACT, Smart Square, and SRI to market. We had some meetings, of course, and we came up with this hub, the SRI Nexus. You can check it out. We are using this QR code. So what are the key features here? We have seamless data integration. You can upload, you can compare the SRI assessment, the SRI data with other platforms, as you can see down there. For each line, we have an assessment coming from a different project. Okay. Also, dashboard and reporting. This platform helps us, let's say, harmonize data from different data schemas, as I mentioned earlier, and you can also come up with customizable insights through different visualizations. I think that is all.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Paraskeva's. Very, very interesting. Many thanks to our first set of speakers, to Maria, to Pablo, and Paraskevas, of course. Very, very useful insights. As I said, remember, we're going to have more details about the tools and whatever is developed throughout the projects in the next session after the coffee break, dedicated workshop in the afternoon, but also paper session tomorrow morning. Now, before we move to our roundtable discussion with Cecile Barrere from Auditorium Solutions, with Tatiana Novikova from America, and Eva Lucas Vergara from Even. Let's try to briefly summarize to what we have learned so far. So we've seen about the need for stakeholder engagement because there are too many actors that needs to be familiarized with the concept and already engaged. We have spoken already about the needs for standardization procedures and for training, for assessments, and of course, they need to have some consistency, interoperability among all the different tools. Now, we're going to follow up with three more speakers, as I said. Cecile Barrere, who is a consultant in innovation and sustainable buildings, actively involved in the awareness campaigns, testing and deployment of the SRI across Europe. And today she will be representing Smarter EPC, but she's also involved in the SRI market. Then we will have Tatiana Novikova, research consultant at the Birka Communication Technology Research, coordination of TUNES project. And finally, Eva Lucas Vergara, PhD architect, researches at Valencia Institute of Building in Valencia. She is an expert in sustainable architecture design, and now she's also coordinating the IEPB project. So before we dive into the discussion, let's take a few moments to get a quick, let's say, overview of the projects. I think it is important to also understand what the framework behind is. So, Cecile, can you briefly give us a sort of overview of Smarter EPC? We're also running a little bit out of time, so let's try to
short. Thank you, Dimitri, for the introduction, and good morning, everybody. So I'm here for a very short introduction about the Smarter EPC project, just 4 minutes. So it's just enough to teach what is our mission and what are our main outputs already available and what is coming in the year to come since our project started. How do you? Yes, our project started, kicked off in October 23. So we have a bit more than 1 year to go. So when we started, we were in this in the context of the publication release of the EPBD4. So this document, very important in our sector, is insisting on three main points that are really impacting our project. First, it encourages the use of the SRI and even announced that it could be mandatory at the horizon of 2027 for large tertiary buildings. It also encourages bridging the gap and closing the gap, bringing together EPC and SRI scheme. And it also leaves a lot of flexibility to member states to implement the recommendation contained in the document. So in short, what Smarter EPC offers, it's all what you need to have at hand to project yourself in the next structure where EPC and SRI schemes are brought closer together. So here you see on the right-hand side of the slide 4 categories of output. So we have a couple of documents that are stating the current status of EPC deployment, SRI deployment, so through these test phases that you heard about. We have as well a package of outputs that are for the assessor, the future assessor of joint EPC and SRI together. So you will see there is reference documents, there is a digital tool, there is a training center. We have guidelines, so for policy makers and public authorities wishing to take this path of trying to bring together these two schemes. And we have also yes, a document focusing on how SRI and EPC can support and interact with green finance and ESG. So here, this slide is a way we like to show some of our outputs. So it's a workflow, the workflow of the building assessor wishing to do this joint assessment of EPC and SRI. So you see 3 elements, which are project outputs. So first, so the 3 elements are in orange. So on the left, you see the standardized on-site audit procedure. So it's really like the first element the assessor needs to have at end to start doing the joint assessment. Then you see in the middle the hub. So the hub, we communicate a lot about the hub. It's our digital tool. So it's a smart data collection interface. So it's not like a calculation tool, but it's a tool that read from smart files like BIM files and other like digital building logbook files, data that it can process. It maps the variables that are later inputted to EPC and SRI tools to compute the certificates. So the last element on the right, it's a joint EPC and SRI certificates. So our hub is not calculating the certificates, but we have we have made a proposition of a joint SRI certificate. So you see this SRI certificate to join the proposition on this green square. And here, basically, I invite you to visit our webpage. It has been updated a few days ago. This is the interface. You can use the buttons to access the different outputs of our project already available. So I mentioned here at the top this atlas where you see EPC tools, commercial EPC tools in each country, and SRI, some characteristic of the SRI tools that are available, but you can have access to a lot more. I invite you to visit. So last slide on our capacity building center. So we have 2 doors. One is for the assessors. Assessors will have access to a training center. So for them to understand, this joint on-site audit, etc. And on the second door, it's a support center for public authorities. So it's for public authorities to access easily all the documentation, not only for our project. Our idea is to be kind of the unique entry point to reach information about SRI and EPC coming from the two clusters that you probably know, the SRI cluster and the next generation EPC cluster. So we have already put online all the resources related to SRI. I invite you to visit it on our webpage. And so I think, yeah, thank you. It's very short. So I invite you to follow our newsletter. We have a very nice format of newsletter. Michela, you are here. You are doing a great job on this newsletter. It's very, very visual. So for not missing the next outcome of our project, I invite you to join and to follow our page. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Cecilia. Amazing. Good, good. Thanks. We now invite Tatiana for the next Fortunes project. Okay, Tatiana, let's see Fortunes very briefly tries to achieve.
Good morning, everyone. And my name is Tatiana Novikova, and I'm very pleased to present TUNE's project here today. So first of all, a few words who we are. TUNES brings together 7 member states, 7 national energy agencies, 3 technical universities for technical support, and Empirica as coordinator. The goal is to support 7 member states in preparation for the next round of EPC and SRI policy transitions. The project lasted for 2 years and is finishing now. And here are some of our key outputs. So this includes, first of all, a collection of EPC and SRI good practices. Then the TUNES toolbox for EPBD transposition based on the Better Regulation Toolbox, which is a European framework for policy making. So these results are public. And we also have non-public outputs. These are the 7 national policy impact assessments and rollout pathways for each participating member state. So all these outputs are designed to support member states in building effective, ambitious policy for energy transition. And I would like to give you a short overview of how energy agencies applied better regulation guideline tools. As you can see on the slide, there are a lot of steps, including data collection, identification of problems and its drivers, setting of objectives, designing of policy options, impact assessment, and developing the rollout pathways. Throughout the whole process, energy agencies had consultations with stakeholders, experts, ministries. This collaborative approach helped to develop the national reports describing the current state and giving recommendations and plan for implementation of the preferred policy option. And I could show you one of the key outputs. It is this TUNES tool or policy options tool, which offers policy measures divided into thematic pillars, which include EPC, SRI, BIP, and others. All of them are based on EPBD articles and best practices, and it is designed to help member states to design tailored pathways at different levels of ambition. This toolbox is freely available on TUNE's website. So this was a very brief introduction of what TUNES is. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Anna. Interesting indeed. And now, before we start the discussion, let's say, Eva, let's give it a short overview of IPB. It's a project place.
Okay, so good morning, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. I will show you what are we developing in the IPB project right now. This is a summary of the project. We are coordinating it from the Valencia Institute of Building, and we are starting the 3rd year of the project. So, what is the main objective of the IPB project? As you know, professionals make multiple visits, and now with the new APBD, it will be more visits because we have to do different assessments to the buildings. So they usually use rigid and uncoordinated tools. So at the end, the APB assessments are perceived as costly and low-value procedures by the market actors. So what we see that is the solution is the IPB common data model. When you analyze the different building assessments, for example, EPC, SRI, renovation passport, you can see that they share common data. And indeed, they have like this building elemental data that we call, that is common for all the assessments. So we propose to take this advantage and develop a common data model, what we call the IPB schema. So this is the main objective of the project, to improve the synchrony between the different multiple building assessments. But we have also other objectives, for example, to ease in the data collection, to improve the accuracy of the APB assessments. So here I am going to present a schema with the main outcomes and objectives of the project. So now we are developing the IPB web app, that is a digital tool with two interfaces, one for building professionals and another for end users. It structures the data according to this IPC common data model, that is an open, scalable format that ensures the compatibility with different assessment tools, for example, EPC, SRI, renovation passport, but it can grow in the future. So the professional interface facilitates the data management across the multiple assessments, allowing all necessary data to be collected in a single visit to the building, and it is connected to public and private databases. On the other hand, the IPB end user interface displays integrated multi-building assessment results in an accessible and visual way. We are also developing an API to enable the data sharing, for example, with national databases. Additionally, we are developing, we developed the SRI standalone application that I will present this afternoon in the workshop about the tools. So you are invited. And we are also integrating this IPB data model into the CEPAP tool, tool from a previous project for calibration with real performance data. And finally, we are also developing national policy recommendations to guide member states in implementing the revised EPBD. So for now, we have this IPB schema developed, and we have a guideline that any assessment could use to implement this IPB data model. So we are implementing it in 4 EPC softwares, in 3 pilots, in 2 SRI tools, and 1 renovation passport software. Here are some screenshots of some software that had it already implemented. About the web app, we have already the common architecture of the application with the data management, the data gathering, and the dashboards for the end users, and we are working in the API right now. The SRI standalone application, it is already done, and it is integrable in any existing tool, for example, EPC tools. Here are some screenshots. And the CEPAP tool to IPB, as I mentioned, it will be implemented in this software of calibration, and the results will be available in the web app. And we are working also in these national recommendations. So, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Nico.
Thank you very much. I'm just intervening because I know that there is still a brief roundtable, a discussion, some questions you want to address. I'm asking the speakers to go really to the point, 1 minute each, because we are a bit late.
Yes. Sorry about that, Sophie. It was interesting. So very quickly, I'm gonna start with Cecile. Cecile, I mean, from the smarter EPC point of view, yes. 1 minute. What was the lessons learned, the experience you had when you tried to merge, let's say, EPC and SRI? How easy or difficult this exercise is?
Yeah, so the lesson learned. So I think when we want to put together the two schemes, so what's happened is that one is very already like installed in society. EPC in many countries, it's very installed. It has a past. It has some griefs against EPC. So we have to deal with that and to kind of learn from EPC experience to do better for SRI experience and for the joint, this effort to join the two schemes, of course. So I think the recommendation is really to look at what has been done for EPC, try not to do the same, improve. Probably improve a lot on the side of the assessors. Assessors need to be correctly trained. They need to have the correct background. We need to harmonize a bit this specific point among the countries because there are very different type of people doing EPC assessment in Europe. And the other lesson learned is from SRI to market actually, from because R2M is really coordinating the test phase, SRI to market test phase in France. Try not to bring this as a new heavy constraints because this sector has a lot of regulation already going on, applied. People are trying to make the investment to align with all this legislation that is, applying. So I really like the way that we kind of we evolve in our way to communicate about SRI in France. We started to, come with a big booth saying, it's in the EPBD4, it will be mandatory in 27, you should look at that. We kind of a bit smooth this communication, showing to them the intrinsic usefulness of SRI. And the fact that it's a communication tool, that it put everybody, on the same page, everybody can speak about upgrade of equipment in building, etc. So yeah, let's try to show it as an opportunity more than as a brick to put on the people's shoulders.
True. Indeed, that's why actually, what Maria told us that, we need to bring everybody together. Stakeholder engagement is crucial. So, Tatiana, how about you? What did you find out in your project? How difficult was it to communicate actually to everybody?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yes, actually, there were several lessons that we learned during the project. So first of all, the energy agencies had multiple consultations with stakeholders and experts. We conducted survey and a series of interviews and workshops. And the findings were that the experts say that the integration of EPC and SRI brings both opportunities and challenges. Among the potential benefits, they mentioned improved data consistency and more holistic understanding of building performance, of course. But there are still some issues that have to be addressed, and this includes methodological complexity, data privacy concerns, and the readiness of digital infrastructure to support the integration. However, there were some practical recommendations that the integration of SRI calculation directly into the existing EPC process would streamline the procedure and reduce administrative burdens. And the next lesson that we learned was actually the work of energy agencies on the policy options, because you saw our tool and the policy measures that aimed at integration of the tools were firstly put by energy agencies to the more ambition level, to the more ambitious scenarios. But later, after conducting the impact assessment, it turned out that such ambitious, advanced and comprehensive policy options actually are more beneficial and are preferred by most of the agencies. And in the end, they recommended that national ministries pursue a joint implementation of EPC and SRI, arguing that it is, first of all, feasible, and secondly, beneficial for achieving more effective building policies.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you, Tatiana. And finally, Eva, how do actually interoperability solutions like the ones prepared in the IPB schema can actually support the rollout of the SRI? How important is that? Please elaborate.
Yes, I would say that integrating the SRI with existing assessment is the key. With the IPB schema and the web app, we allow the building professionals, for example, to share the data among different assessments, and it facilitates the data gathering. You can do it everything in one visit to the building. It reduces the errors, the inconsistencies among the different assessments, because not many, but a lot of the data is common. At the end, the building is the same. So this data gathering, so doing it more easy, I think that reduces the costs of the assessments. So it is a very good point for the building owners. And also with this schema, we can have an unified multi-assessments results visualization. So we can have a more informed renovation strategy with this SRI assessment too, not only the EPC. So at the end, linking it to already mandatory assessments facilitates that building owners could have the SRI alongside with the EPC with a lot of extra work. No, so.
Super. Many thanks. And thanks to all of you actually for the time and explaining your projects, sharing your experience, your insights, and how we can actually make better use of all the tools. As I said, next session after the coffee break, we'll elaborate more on all the tools developed. Right in the afternoon, there is also another workshop on the tools, and tomorrow morning. My final comment would be that I know we're late, sorry about that, Sophie, is that all this time, all the projects really supported and developed, many interesting, let's say, tools for member states, for the industry and everybody, for the owners. And now I think it's the time to actually make good use of them and see how we take it to another step. So many thanks. Apologies again for not respecting the time. I hope it's it's still manageable. So thank you all, and many thanks to all.
Thank you very much, Dimitris, and many thanks to the speakers. Indeed, we are a bit late, but it's mainly because we started late, okay? But I'm still putting a bit of pressure. Still, since it's a long session, we want to have a break. It's going to be short, just the time to stretch your legs, to grab a coffee, and then please be back in 10 minutes. We are starting with another session on EU projects. There will be some polls. There will be interaction with the audience. Then we will have also a panel debate with representatives of the industry. So please be back in 10 minutes. Thank you so much. So I'm glad to introduce the next session with EU projects. This time we are going to present the projects that are working also beyond the limits of the EPBD. So they are not only working on supporting the EPBD implementation, but also working on future developments. The session is moderated by Andrei Vladimir Litiu. He is the Executive Director of EPB Center. He has been involved in numerous projects, EU projects, but also service contracts in the building and energy sector. And he will be your moderator for the next 60 minutes. And welcome to the other speakers.
Many thanks, Sophie. A pleasure to be here in this role. Hello, everybody in the room and also our colleagues online. And welcome, dear speakers and panelists of this session. Why I'm here today in this role, it's because I like to call myself a facilitator. So for all these clusters that have been mentioned earlier today, those being Next-Gen EPC and also SRI, of course, there are several facilitators and I'm the only one. And particularly for the SRI, we already started looking ahead, or 3, 4, 5 years ago. There was still the second technical SRI study, and there was a topical group called The Future of SRI, looking at quantitative assessment, not just qualitative. So this is basically what we are going to explore in this session. We are going beyond the policy framework set out by the EPBD. Just to provide context, the energy transition we are embarked on is a twin transition. We all know it's green and digital. So the digitalization is basically encompassing also the building sector. And before EPBD the EPBD review in 2000, the revised EPBD in 2018, before SRI was formally introduced in EPBD, there was no one method to assess building smartness. So now with the EPBD recast of 2024, this is even more enhanced. So we have this common framework, there is coherence, and this is what policy instruments do. They create a healthy framework, coherence, so that certain evolutive processes can take place in the market. At the same time, there is always a limit how far policy making can go. And that's why it's a great honor to be here and introduce the colleagues that will showcase elements from the projects that they have been involved in or are still involved in, be they policy uptake projects or research and development projects. They are looking how the SRI brings added value in day-to-day activities. Of course, it's a policy instrument, but in reality, when you assess building performance at large, you don't only look at smartness, you don't only look at energy, you look holistically, circularity, ESG. And some of the things you're going to hear from my dear colleagues here today brings this to a practical setting. Because as they were saying in the beginning, Antonello and Francesco, when they renovated this building, SRI was not there yet, and they would have enjoyed to integrate from the very beginning. Still, I think the scores are quite good. So having this holistic approach in actual activities, because when you do a renovation of a building, you don't just do the smartness or the energy, you do it in a holistic manner. So without further ado, I'll briefly introduce the colleagues. So we have a returning colleague from EasySRI, Paraskevas. We have newcomers, Christos representing Wilson Project, and we also have Martina joining online for DataWise. And Martina, she has also been part of the SRI. She has been the coordinator of SRI NAC project, which was mentioned earlier, part of the SRI cluster. Then we have Stavros representing Evelixia project and Kalin representing WeForming. And then we have two colleagues returning from the previous session, Pablo representing Smart Square and Maria SRI to Market. You see they are grouped in certain aspects that they will showcase. Of course, their projects are much broader in scope and depth, but they will just showcase some key elements that I have outlined. Before we dive in, we wanted to make the session a bit more interactive. So there is a poll, which I kindly ask you to take out your smartphone, scan the QR code, or if you're on your PC, just click on the link. Especially the participants online, just click on the link and you should be able to go to the slide. And I kindly ask my colleagues from the technical team to leave the slide just 10 more seconds on screen, and then go to the actual Mentimeter interface. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, scan, 3, 2, 1. So let's start the vote. If somebody can confirm that the vote is live. Ah, voilà, it's live. So I don't need to read out loud. You can see it also on your phone. So we really want to see what is your opinion. We talked about feedback loops earlier, and everything related to SRI has been a co-creative process. So that's why we just want to test a bit what is your opinion. Okay, let's leave it 10 more seconds. I'll do the countdown again. 10, 9, 8, 7. Just vote with your heart. 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's call it a close. Well, it's funny enough, the first part of the session is looking at tools and automation, which you scored the highest. So without further ado, I call my dear colleague Paraskevas to showcase from EasySRI how you have gone beyond the EPBD policy framework.
Thank you, Andrei. Just a clicker, Andrei. Okay, so let's start with simplified tools and time accommodation systems. I will show what we did as part of EasySRI activities. Okay, so this is the AI-powered SRI assistant we developed. We have some features that are presented here, just some capabilities. So you can ask this LLM-based assistant to tell you things about the SRI technical framework or other generic questions regarding the SRI. You can ask about training material and many other questions. So what is the benefit? Why we came up with this implementation using chatbot actually? Because it's more user-friendly. Okay. So you have a structured guide for running and executing an SRI assessment. It's always accessible. You don't need to use some forms and send a request and expect after some hours or some minutes some reply to someone. And we believe it is much more efficient and simplifies the whole learning process about the SRI. Now, the SRI Express, one major novelty of EasySRI. What is happening here? We have an implementation of a chatbot. It will guide you through the SRI assessment of any building. It is much faster. It is simpler, of course. You don't need to have some expert knowledge, just the basics about SRI. You might learn about these by asking the SRI assistant. And at some extent, we have reduction in the errors, in the input errors about data. So according to some assessments regarding the timing that it takes, it is capable to reduce up to 80% the overall time of assessing any building. And here, normally I have a video that plays. Maybe the technical team. Okay. So these were two videos. To your left, you will see how much time it takes the SRI Express by inputting and making choices to the chatbot. It will take about 25 to 30 seconds, if I remember right, about this video, compared to this one that you need to run through different forms and insert by clicking different domains, different options to execute the same assessment. Also, a dashboard offered by EasySRI, you can get the number of SRI assessments, of course. You can group them. You can see the average SRI score. If you notice up there, you see that we split to express assessments, simplified assessments, and also detailed assessments. You can see a map, the location-based view, the distribution of different ratings, and many, many more visualizations. Also, we have the investment portfolio. You have two options offered by EasySRI. The first one is the SRI optimizer that will allow you to improve your SRI score based on your budget and offer you some options to install actually smart devices. And we have the RES and BEST optimizer. The first one is this one. As you can see, you choose a building from the buildings that you have already assessed. The country, of course, is automatically being chosen for you, and you just set the budget you wish to spend. And the optimizer takes control of this and provides some suggested products and the cost for the homeowner. And next, the second option as a recommendation system by EasySRI. This is the RES and BEST optimizer, as I said. You can add the building location. You can edit your building data via the forms offered, and you have automatic smart predictions and real-time predictions coming from some external sources, APIs connected with this optimizer, and then you get an optimized energy mix. Okay, and here you can see what is the output of this RES and BEST optimizer and the statistics and all this information offered to the end user. I think that's all. Right on time, Andre.
Thank you very much, Paraskevas. Christos, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. So, hello everyone. Nice to be here with this nice crowd for the third year in a row. Since we are on a tight schedule, I will skip any lengthy introductions. In a nutshell, Wilson leverages distributed data management and digital twin technologies to deliver more advanced building management solutions. Our contribution to technologies in the project focuses mainly on the combination of AI-enhanced and BIM in order to more or less provide more advanced SRI assessment methods. So, first of all, why do we need a BIM-based approach in SRI assessment? There are hidden BIM dependencies behind any SRI assessment method. So SRI calculation may seem relatively simple. However, it's not just about which services are present. It's also how these are distributed across the building. And this involves an accurate interpretation of the building evidence. And BIM is the de facto standard for modeling such evidence. Secondly, which is worse, even though SRI assessment is based on such evidence, this exact evidence does not actually follow and accompany the final SRI report. Thus, it's not easily retrievable afterwards for any purpose. So BIM can help both organize and also retain in a standardized digital manner this information, and increasing this way the transparency and traceability of SRI reports. So in future reassessments or compliance audits, someone can easily refer back to this evidence and more or less justify many of the original assessor decisions. And finally, last but not least, by harmonizing the data management and collection process of the different EBD instruments, we can establish great critical economies of scale, which reduce the assessment cost and increase consistency among the different instruments. So, Our work focuses on introducing BEAM at two core phases of the SRI assessment process, the initial data collection phase and the calculation phase. By introducing BEAM, we solve many problems, but we create a new one, very critical one, which is we expect assessors to become BEAM experts. How we overcome this? We have developed a Talk to BEAM application, which actually allows assessors to generate and interact with 3D building models through natural language. And we have also developed an SRI assessment method that automatically utilizes the information coming from this BEAM information in order to speed up and streamline the assessment process. But let's see this in action. So the Talk to BEAM application does not actually rely on any complicated BEAM authoring tool user interface. Instead, it runs a conversation with the assessor, guiding them step by step on how to create the 3D building model. While doing so, it also acts as an interpreter. So what it does at the back end is actually translates this conversation into the appropriate service API calls on the BEAM authoring tool API. So what we get at the end is an interactive 3D building model that actually contains all the SRI essential information, and having doing so without actually requiring the assessor to face any of the IFC complications. On the calculation phase, our original approach included a more rigid rule-based approach, but which consisted in 3 steps. First of all, detailed definition of the property sets of IFC that we need for the SRI assessment, along with instructions for the assessors. Then the assessors had to manually enrich their BIM files based on these instructions, which, of course, at the final step, it was very easy and straightforward how to collect this information and feed the calculation engine. Right now, we're working on a more dynamic approach, but through dynamic semantic mapping, we're trying to identify and infer which BIM elements we need for the SRI assessment and use this information to pre-fill the SRI tables. And this way, we provide a draft SRI report to the assessors for them to correct, to validate, and in certain cases, we flag any missing elements. And this has proven to be much more cost-efficient approach, which, however, retains adequate levels of accuracy. Now, this is where everything comes together. Q has developed an integrated building digital twin framework that combines both static, BIM, and dynamic IoT information, along with AI-driven building performance metadata. And users can actually navigate through space and time, analyzing the past, monitoring the present, and forecasting future building behavior in different spatiotemporal granularities. And BIM is the semantic backbone of this system. By adopting BIM as the core data model for SRI as well, we are allowing SRI to become part of this ecosystem. And this way, we can have the different dimensions of SRI, which is comfort, flexibility, and efficiency, being calculated based on the same reference model, and this way being in full alignment and consistency with the rest of the performance indicator. And what we do, in effect, through this way, we can actually calculate the impact of different interventions, both on the SRI rating, as well as on the actual real-life building performance. And how we do this is quite straightforward. Any building future intervention is actually translated in a new building reference, which we use as a pivot to more or less trigger the different performance engines. In this way, for example, we can calculate what is the impact of some comfort-oriented interventions, like, for example, smart thermostats or actuators on domestic hot water, and how this impact both the SRI and, of course, the different impact criteria, as well as how they actually increase the comfort levels within the building. Similarly, you can do this for flexibility interventions, like, for example, a smart ham for the home, and how it increases self-consumption capabilities of the building, along with the SRI rating improvement. And what's important is that we allow the building owners to fully understand how different SRI ratings actually correspond to real-life benefits, which is the target here. That's all from my side. I would be happy to hear your thoughts or questions later on during the break, so feel free to reach out with any questions.
Many thanks, Christos, also for keeping the time. We have a colleague now joining us, Martina, online. So I kindly ask my colleagues in the technical team to bring Martina on screen. Martina, I hope. Okay, so the floor is yours, Martina.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Thanks. I would like also to thank you from my side for the organization. Unfortunately, I could not be physically there. I guess I can share directly my screen. Share screen, just a minute. Okay, so you should see right now the presentation. So I am Martina Rizou from Singular Logic, and I will present you the project DataWise that actually uses the SRI tool that was built in a previous live project I think we mentioned also earlier. The DataWise project is about data-driven smartness assessment for large bidding portfolios. And I will say very briefly that the project started in June 2024. It consists of 16 partners, and it will last for 39 months. The overall goal in a nutshell is to provide tools in order to assess buildings' performance and different aspects on the basis of life cycle data and AI analytics. For this purpose, the project will deliver a data sharing platform along with two toolkits that will provide different insights to the building stakeholders. Let's present briefly how SRI is included within this project. The Smart Readiness Assessment will be included in one of the toolkits that aims to deliver AI-powered lifecycle data-driven decision support. So one of the pillars is related to smart readiness assessment, but as you see here, the idea is to provide a toolkit that provides insights from different aspects, not only the smart readiness, but also predictive maintenance, integrated sustainability, and circular life assessment. Within the DataWise, we are going to use the SRI toolkit as a tool for the assessment of the SRI, and which is originally developed in the live project SRI Enact that actually was part of the SRI cluster and the sister project of Smart Square and Easy SRI and SRI to Market that we saw earlier, the great results that they have delivered also this project. So what is this SRI toolkit? Basically, it's a user-friendly toolkit that provides a tool to enable the assessment of the SRI. And it actually enables different reports on the results of the SRI, also on the actual scores, and broken down in the usual categories as implied in the SRI methodology, but also a case study report that provides a very quick overview of the key aspects of the building and the SRI score. Beyond the assessment tool, we have developed within the toolkit a decision support tool, which is a scenario-driven tool to analyze potential smart-ready upgrades and assess the effect in the SRI score alongside with different optimization criteria, meaning the cost effectiveness of the different upgrades in terms of the increase of the SRI score and their actual costs. The toolkit offers different user roles. We have implemented different access policies in principle to the data, the assessment data that were collected. There was a role about a resident or an assessor and also a country supervisor or administrator. I have to say here that this role-based approach was very helpful during the previous project because we had used this tool to assess more than 1,200 buildings across 8 different countries. So it was a very large-scale pilot with the method P. So we have trained actually the 120 auditors and then assessed all these buildings. And it was very useful to have this role-based approach in order to provide the capabilities of a supervisor to check an assessment and possibly return to the assessor for review and try to increase the quality of the assessment results. Okay, so this is a very high-level workflow of the SRI toolkit, and actually it follows the usual process of the SRI assessment, starting from adding a building and the basic characteristics, then selecting domains, then selecting the different functionality levels, and of course, seeing at the end the results in different formats that support analysis of the different stakeholders. Once an assessment is completed, then the user can use the decision support tool and basically define an SRI score that of course is greater than the current SRI score, and then the tool can return different scenarios on how the SRI can be increased and what is the resulting cost and SRI increase on the different scenarios. Here is a quick overview on how the SRI toolkit will be integrated in the DataWise toolkit that, as I said, provides a more broader context of different parameters for the building. And the outcome here is, of course, we want to test interoperability and this of integration of the SRI toolkit with other tools, and also expand the scenarios of the use of the SRI and explore the interpretation of the SRI. That was also a major discussion we had also with policymakers and stakeholders at the end of the previous SRI MAC project. So within DataWise, we have 3 pilots, and we are going to make a more let's say, in-depth assessment of some buildings. Currently, there are 9. We have made a baseline assessment in the different pilot buildings that include public buildings and non-residential buildings. The average scores are low, especially in Latvia and in Austria. In Spain, we had a high score, but this relates to the particular, let's say, case that is involved in this project. And this building is quite advanced, and therefore we have already a very high score. So the next step here is to validate the resulting toolkit, integrated toolkit, and analyze SRI together with other indicators, and of course collect additional assessment data and analyze them and provide some additional insights on interpretation of the SRI in the overall context of this project. Thanks a lot, and I give the floor back to the organizers. Thank you.
Thank you, Martina, very much. If the colleagues in the technical team could bring back the slides in the room on screen. Great. So now I'll quickly hand over the floor to Stavros, who's representing Evelixia. And to minimize my involvement and keep the timing, I would kindly ask Stavros, as soon as you're done, Colleen, please come. And then after Colleen, Pablo, and then Maria. Thank you. Stavros, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andre. Hello, everybody. I am Stavros. How this work? Okay. So, what is Evelixia? Evelixia is a Greek word meaning flexibility. So, our motto is buildings as active utility nodes. And the role of this project is to explore how we can untap the potential in buildings in order to enable them interact with the grid. So, how we are going to do it? We aim to utilize digitalization in terms of Internet of Things, but also in terms of software solutions and hardware solutions. For instance, hydrogen storage, battery storage, or heat pumps, in order to enable buildings to shift their role from passive consumers to like communicators with the grid. So as a result, we aim to achieve even more the interaction between the electricity or district heating grids with the buildings. In a nutshell, the project is comprised from 36 partners in total from 12 European countries. And we have 12 horizontal partners, which are mainly responsible for the development of the software solutions, and 7 pilot site ecosystem. Each pilot site ecosystem is consisted of companies that have the buildings, but also the companies that are related to the grid part, like distribution system operators, both for electricity grids and district heating networks, as well as aggregators. So, the Smart Readiness Indicator in Evelixia. We all know that the flexibility is, in terms of SRI, both the holy grail, but also the elephant in the room, as we cannot talk about flexibility if the grids, they don't ask it from the buildings, from the moment, what I mean. In the project, we have 2 aspects. In the first aspect, on the SRI advisor, we aim to give answers to questions like, imagine that you have calculated the SRI score of a building, which is 40%, let's say. So what? Our question starts by, what can I do to increase the SRI score of my building? What potential has my building to increase its SRI score? So, these kind of questions, which is the most effective actions to do at first in order to increase the SRI score, and how much it will cost? This is the typical questions that we aim to answer with this tool. The second scope of SRI under the Evelixia is how we can make the SRI even bigger, how we can incorporate energy communities, neighborhoods, districts under a general framework for assessing their smart readiness potential. I will give a brief overview of both topics, as in the workshop sessions we will dive into them into more detail. So, starting with the SRI advisor, as I said, it is a recommendation engine in order to aim the upgrade of the SRI score in buildings. So, we aim to identify the most cost-effective actions that we can take in terms of technology upgrades in order to have a tailored roadmap for our building. In this case, the input parameters is the SRI assessment of the building, of course, the building characteristics. As we have seen from BIM files, we are able to extract information, and also ask the user what is the main domain of interest. The target audience in this case is the building users, engineers, and facility managers. So, as you can see here, this is a brief preview of the methodology. On your left, you can see that we have the building features and the user priorities. Also, we take into consideration the cost of each intervention on number 3, the SRI assessment on number 2, which are all forwarded to an optimization engine. So in the end, we get a result that indicates what are the main actions that we should take in order to make our building smarter. This is also a preview of the user interface that will be presented later on in the workshop. As you can see, we have a list of options with things that we can change on the building to upgrade the SRI score. Proceeding to the SRI on district, here we have the methodology development for the SRI calculation on district level. We have also a quantitative assessment based on the overall district energy storage or flexibility services potential. And we also intend to introduce indicators like the SRI D max or the load potential of the district max in order to be able to understand even better the flexibility of our district and how it is related to the smart readiness indicator. So that's all from Evelixia. Thank you for your attention.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kalim Boje from Licht in Luxembourg, and I will present the reforming project. I've seen a lot of great presentations this morning, so I would also like to have some sort of critical discussion at some point. I've seen a lot of developments this morning. I've seen some great presentations just now. Reforming is a sister project with Evelixia that was just presented. And I'll try to keep it brief. I'm an academic. I hope to give you guys some insights. It is very similar to the just previous presentation, looking at grid flexibility, grid interaction, and what is the role of SRI. In reforming, maybe I should look at more there, cannot really see. We have the concept of intelligent grid forming buildings, which is going to be developed as part of the project. And I'm trying here just to highlight the things relevant to the SRI, because the project is much bigger. So the SRI is vital to its implementation, okay, obvious. There are already ontologies and different standards on alignment. So we've already seen presentations on BIM, digital twins, even SRI schemas. This morning you saw the Easy SRI platform, which is great because when I started looking at the SRI about 5 years ago, all I had was the Excel spreadsheet, right? So now we have a lot more tools to work with, which is great. So what we're using some of these tools, ontology standards and so on to understand the buildings, to try to align them with grid concepts. And then we're trying to see if the SRI can bring some sort of extension to the grid or to the district based on the tested services and the digital twin applications. As a methodology for modeling, I am an ontology modeling expert, and I look a lot into BIM, not particularly the expert on grids. And this is a methodology that I like to use because there's a lot of standards, there's a lot of tools. Everyone kind of has their own digital twin platform or idea these days, and interoperability is hard to achieve. And I believe that there are a lot of technical ways to solve issues, but really the procedure or the way to standardize is about consensus. And so in reforming, we are trying to consider very systematic steps in understanding the pilots, understanding the tools, understanding the existing standards, while considering the BIM, the building, as one of the nodes in the grid, and of course, considering the SRI and the SRI potential. We see here BIM as a database. You saw this in the previous presentation, which is very good by Christos on the Wilson project. I think that it's great. Having something like this shows that if you have enough enriched information in the BIM model, it can give you support to assess or to understand the context of the building. This is also something I've researched as part of a previous project called EPC Recast that's finished 2 years ago. The problem is that, of course, the BIM needs to be representative and up to date. So that's exactly what people are trying to do. They're putting all the property sets in, their extra data, which is extra work. So it's not really easy to automate. Just to mention in comparison to Evalaxia that I see that you guys understand that the SRI as a district level, whereas we forming, we see the SRI as an interface, as a building interface towards the grid. So it's very interesting to see two different methodologies, and I'll be very keen to discuss about this. So the SRI is an indicator, right? I don't know if it can be really implemented as a service, but there's a lot of tools these days that could do that. We've got several demos. Don't have too much time, but there's a demo on, there's an urban district in Luxembourg with batteries, district heating, and a lot of different technologies. There's a large shopping mall in Portugal, and there's a few smaller residential homes, one in Croatia, for example, that is experiencing different peaks of energy and seasonal during vacations and so on. So all these are trying to see how we can adapt. All of these have their own tools, how they manage their own energy management and so on. So what we've done is we've done surveys on the tools that they use, the data that they use, the schemas, it's JSON, it's XML, it's REST APIs and so on, trying to understand what kind of data can we get. And if we have the SRI of these buildings, how can we interface, how can we give information to the grid so that the grid understands that this building has a battery, this building does not have a battery, this building has PVs, and this one doesn't. And this shows, also this morning, I was quite interesting results to see that usually the grid flexibility score of the SRI is very low. So I think that WeForming really touches on this challenge. This is an extra slide, I'll skip this, but we also just wanted to mention that a lot of these people on these pilots, they don't really know what the SRI was, so we had to spend a lot of time teaching them, this is the SRI, this is the benefit of the SRI, so that was also sort of a session, trying to bring everyone to the same level. And understanding and having workshops with them is very important so they can see the benefits of, do I need to do an SRI? And if I do an SRI, what do I get out of it if I communicate with the grid? This is just a past project where we looked at the alignment with the IFC schema. And based on ontologies, we try to bridge an interface between the BIM and the SRI. So it's based on the same methodology. You can have a look at the publication if you're interested and see all the details. And there's also a bunch of other publications on digital twins that might help you academics in the room. And I think I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
All right, hello everyone, it's me again. So most of you, I was taking a look at the faces, so I will skip what Smart Square is. You see on the slide the key exploitable results. Earlier today, I went over the SAM worship agreement, and now I will focus on the Smart Readiness Virtual Training Center. If you're curious on the other three, I encourage you to come to the workshop that we will have later today. So yeah, the Smart Readiness Virtual Training Center is how our project approached the training and the upscaling of the assessors. So yeah, with the key message is to try to stay ahead of the curve with the main features of having a self-paced, modular, practice-based, interactive, and accredited assessment that can be accessible, by the way, with with an app. We have quizzes, content, and problem-based exercises, 8 hours. Course blueprint, we have 3 modules. The first one upscales you on the Smart Ready functionalities. And we have the Smart Readiness assessment, which is actually the basis of the SAM worship agreement, the standardization that I presented earlier. We have the accreditation, where an assessor is actually given a certificate for completing the course. So we have theoretical materials. I don't know why this is going without my, so it's going too quick. I will keep it within the time, but this is too much. Theoretical materials is just the training center. This is the technical framework by the SRI support team. So this is the basis. We have a quiz. And then if you complete it, you're given a badge. You completed the first level. Then we have second theoretical content, so theoretical materials, a quiz, and now you're asked to submit an exercise of a case study building. You complete it, you move on to the third level, which you need to take a building of your own and submit it. And if you did it correctly, great, diploma, LinkedIn accreditation. We have some other interesting features to try to enhance the learning experience by the users. So we have news and updates where we regularly inform about what is the progress of the SRI. We have also a community forum with the intention to try to keep people engaged with each other, and also that previous experts support newcomers. A glossary of terms that leverages the standardization work. Spot and report, because we're not perfect, we always make mistakes on the content. Updated regulatory framework, and we give templates to support professionals on the day-to-day practice. And once you're done, if you would like to give us your feedback, that's great. This is what I have. Probably was too quick. We're going to have a demo later on. You can scan this and access the training. It's fully fledged on English. It reflects the European framework at the moment, but it's being adapted to other contexts. And that is actually Riva's intention, to keep this alive. The project that gave birth to this ends in 15 days at the end of this month. We're going to rebrand it. This is going to remain a resource accessible for everyone under Riva umbrella. We are at the moment working on the adaptation and translation to Italian, German, and Greek. And more courses, more adaptations will come. At the moment, they all reflect the same methodology. So the SRI technical framework prepared by the European Commission. But as the different contexts evolve and start tweaking the differences of the SRI in their own context, adapted service catalogs, weighting factors, each national adaptation of the course will also adapt accordingly. So yeah, we aim to keep this afloat and hopefully become one of the most useful European references for the training. So yeah, that's that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Well, as I mentioned before, one of the main objectives of the Search to Market project is the supporting of the ongoing official testing phases. To achieve this, it is essential to have a sufficient number of professionals with the necessary expertise, as you know. So a specific training program tailored to national context is required. Maybe, well, just a very quick overview of this. To ensure proper knowledge is acquired by experts or by assessors, we have developed an e-learning program comprising 3 levels of expertise. Only those at level 2 SRE beginners will have access to the assessment platform, and only projects developed by those at level 3 SRE experts will contribute to the aggregated data and conclusions. This is something that I have already shown you. So the registration to our e-learning platform is very easy. You just need a valid Google account. Well, once users have registered, they can access 7 courses in 7 different EU official languages: English, French, Croatian, German, Spanish, Portuguese, and Greek. The 6 courses corresponding to the national pilot have been managed by national partners, ensuring that all students' needs are covered according to their national context. Also, the learning itinerary corresponding to the 3 levels of expertise covers different sections of the course. Oh, sorry, no, doesn't work. Well, level 1 it covers the course info, introduction to the SRE, and the history of the SRE. The level 2 SRE beginner covers 10 units, including the common EU framework and 1 unit per technical domain, 9 in total. To become an SRE beginner, it is necessary to pass all quizzes, of course, 1 per unit. And finally, level 3 covers the submission of an assignment, including a current state assignment and an improvement package of the same building or building unit. And also it requires the submission of their feedback via a survey at the end of the course. So a badge is granted for each level, more or less like Pablo explained, and this is also required to access the next level in the program. So we will just like to mention that during this Congress this afternoon, we will, now we will be opening the tool of you with these login credentials, SP 2025 and password SRA to market. So you can test the tool by yourself if you want. And we also invite you to join this afternoon in the workshop Tools to Support the Uptake of the SRA, which will take place at 4 p.m. in the roof 3. So I will be glad during this workshop, we will give a live demonstration of this tool, the Assessment Accelerator Market tool. Well, this is something that doesn't work. Okay, well, it's something that doesn't work in the PowerPoint. Okay, an image is missing. But here I will also I will need to say that level 3 of expertise provides access to all the platform's functionalities, including SRA project developments, and in addition to the e-learning platforms, the fact sheet developed as training materials in the 7 official languages are also available via the assessment platform. This is something that is missing here. It was a screenshot of the assessment platform, but okay, this is the fact sheet that are easy accessible via the assessment platform also. So directly by clicking the help button in the assessment platform next to each service, you can open this fact sheet that we find very useful for the technician. Okay, finally, we have developed a continuous monitoring of the e-learning platform along the project lifetime. So far, we have achieved more than 500 SRA users, more than 300 SRA beginners, and more than 100 SRA experts. Well, these figures have let us identify best practices such, okay, technicians need a continuous support during the training program. It is important to include what's new about the SRAE and from the methodology calculation framework, from the regulation perspective. The Q&A forum has been key for interact with the student. Also necessary glossary. The quality check procedure is a continuous process along the training course. Also relevant for this is to include a peer-to-peer review for the submissions. This enable the identification of common mistakes among all students. And we fix this providing live sessions to explain and clarify these common mistakes to the student. And finally, a survey to know their feedback is necessary. And the badge system and certificate engage the student to be on track on the course. So thank you very much.
Many thanks, Maria, and many thanks to all the speakers. Great insights, enriching presentations, and excellent timekeeping, so much obliged for that. I encourage everybody in the auditorium to reach out. We have a networking lunch break after the session that's coming now. So without further ado, I pass on the floor. We skip the poll to keep the timeline, and I pass the floor to Sophie to introduce the next session. Many thanks again. Another round of applause for our speakers. And I give the floor to Sophie, please.
Thank you so much, Andrei, and many thanks to the speakers. We are entering the last part of our track on the SRI. So we are going to have now a panel discussion with building sector and industry stakeholders that are going to share their perspectives. I'm calling the speakers on stage. The session is moderated by Bonnie Brooke. She's the chair of the Working Group 3 of the SRI platform, representing building sector research and industry stakeholders. And we are starting with a video. So please, in the technical room, if you can play the video.
The Smart Readiness Indicator and why this is important for you as a building owner in the EU. In a fast-changing world of rising energy costs, evolving regulations, and increasing tenant expectations, what's the smartest move a building owner can make today to safeguard the building asset for tomorrow? To assist you with this, we have the Smart Readiness Indicator, a standardized EU framework that evaluates your building's ability to optimize its performance, enhance occupant experience, and interact with the smart grid. The Smart Readiness Indicator assesses the automation level of building services like heating, cooling, lighting, EV charging, and other important domains. Think of it as a scorecard for your building's ability to efficiently sense and optimize its performance. If you manage a non-residential building with over 290 kilowatts of heating, cooling, and ventilation, the SRI is expected to become mandatory. Smaller buildings and other types of buildings, like residential buildings, can also benefit from the SRI framework if you as an owner decide to implement. The SRI assessments help uncover ways to reduce energy and operational costs using smarter controls and automation. See this as your guide to relevant smart building improvements. High-performance smart-rated buildings are more appealing to tenants, investors, and future buyers, and can therefore directly impact your bottom line and long-term value. With decarbonization targets and ESG reporting growing more rigorous, the SRI provides credible, standardized evidence of your building's readiness when supporting disclosures and sustainability efforts. The SRI identifies where your building can benefit most from smart upgrades like dynamic lighting, automated heating and cooling, grid flexibility, and interoperable systems. With this knowledge, you can prioritize capital spending and service contracts where it creates the most impact, cutting waste, improving tenant comfort, and boosting performance. With data-driven insights, you can reduce operational costs, improve tenant satisfaction, and strengthen building resilience. The SRI offers you the framework to enable new insights about your building's smart readiness features and capabilities now and in the future. The SRI is not an audit. It is a roadmap to ensure that buildings become and stay more energy efficient, comfortable to tenants, and energy adaptive to the smart grid. Visit the official EU SRI web and learn more.
Good day, everyone. Okay, now I'm in business. So, hello, everyone. This video was produced by the working group of stakeholders on the SRI platform. And our task is to bring the views of various diverse stakeholders to the platform. So we can increase the market uptake of the SRI and actually involve and engage wider community of stakeholders, not just the members of this working group. So today, excuse me, today on stage, we have invited distinguished guests that represent different industries and have different activities in the building sector. To my right, we have Alessio Sagliocco from Senjim. This is a consulting company. Then we have Cecilia Hogoni from Taikos Group. And this is a construction company. They work on new construction as well as on existing buildings with renovation. They also manage some of the buildings. And to the far right, I have Michael Vila. He is the executive director of SmartN, which is a European association of the flexible demand management industry in Europe. To my left, we have Luca Lanotte from CINEA. Then we have Gus Kosovic from UBAC, the European Association of Building Automation and Controls Industry. So we have tried to invite as many as possible relevant stakeholders in the value chain of the building sector. And I would like to know who is in the audience. I hope we have also online audience. So could you please start the first poll? So who is in the audience? There is a QR code for you. Have we stopped it or not yet? Okay, in any case, we can see the groups of various stakeholders. And we have, more or less the same distribution in the working group. Thank you for your inputs. So we would have another 2 polls. So please keep your QR code and be ready for the next 2. We will start with the first question, and I would like to start with Gus. Okay, the first question is actually to everyone from the panelists, and it is, what is the impact of the introduction of the Smart Readiness Indicator to your specific industry? So to your industry or your activity, as we spoke with Luca. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bonnie, and thank you for having us here. As Bonnie already mentioned, we represent building automation and controls industry. So those are the technologies that actually enable a lot of the capabilities that the Smart Readiness Indicator assesses. So therefore, we're very, very interested in seeing the development in this area. And for us, we clearly see the Smart Readiness Indicator as an accelerator of smartness if we implement it coherently and consistently across the EU. So first, maybe a few benefits that we'll go into deeper, I'm sure, as well, and that we've heard about already during today, that we as an industry see is that SRI creates a uniform language for, or rather uniform value to the language of smartness. So we often hear the buzzword of smartness in buildings, but SRI actually provides us with a list of clear and measurable capabilities like controlling monitoring, like demand response, like fault detection and diagnostics that we can see in our buildings and we can evaluate them. And this helps all of the stakeholders in the value chain, the building owners, the tenants, the system integrators, the assessors, but also manufacturers to speak in a common language and know exactly what we are buying and selling when we offer our products. So we have a more of a level playing field. Second, the benefit that I see for our industry, and I think also others, is that it complements existing requirements in regulation like the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, because we know, for example, requirements on building automation and control systems. There's certain requirements for large buildings like this that need to be implemented. However, we experience issues with compliance. And this is where a tool like SRI can complement compliance assessment, because it pretty much mirrors at least the set of capabilities that need to be assessed. However, unlike a boring, tedious assessment that assesses the minimum requirements, it actually provides you with an incentive to try to do better with a score, which you can compare with other buildings. So it drives, again, the uptake of smart technologies and helps us ensure compliance across the EU. And third, of course, it's data. That leads to action, leads to savings. As we always say, you cannot optimize what you cannot measure. So SRI enables, again, this continuous commissioning rather than one-time audits that lead nowhere and fade over time. So on the challenges, just to briefly flag some of those, and I'm sure we're going to discuss this as well further, the biggest one, I think, for everybody, the fear that we have is the repeat of the energy performance certificate, so that we have more than 27 different approaches on how we do this. We cannot compare them within countries, not to speak even across the EU. So if you operate cross-border, we need something that is reliable, that can be trusted, and that investors, building owners, but also technology providers can rely on, and it doesn't become a burden for them. It actually becomes an enabler that they can compare. Second, of course, is the evidence burden. We must ensure, as through many of the projects you're trying to do, provide templates and tools that are easy to understand, easy to use for everybody. And third, of course, is skills and capacity, which is trying to be addressed through the projects as well. We need to build on skills. We cannot assume that an EPC assessor can just watch a YouTube video or something and be ready to go into a building and understand technical building systems and assess them. So we need to build on this. So for the overall headline, to summarize for us as an industry, SRI is a good news, provided that it continues to be capabilities based with the clear attachment to the existing requirements and is implemented consistently and coherently across the EU.
Thank you, Gus. Thank you. How about you, Mikael, and the industry you represent?
Sorry, and the number and everything activated. Yes. Here, continue. The microphone to activate, otherwise, yes. Number 12. So thanks a lot, Bonnie. I'm indeed the executive director of, as Bonnie was saying, of Smart 10, which is indeed the European business organization of the so-called flexible demand management industry. So it's around 120 companies offering technologies and services to activate the flexibility from buildings, but also from industries, small, medium enterprises. So any kind of consumers can be flexible, can adjust its own energy needs. So for us, it's by definition that the flexibility, the demand side flexibility functionality of the SRI is extremely crucial to raise awareness about the flexibility potential of buildings, being them residential or non-residential, and also to eventually help deploy technologies and services that can increase the flexibility functionality of buildings. Flexibility, we know, it's a concept that still needs to be known. There is a lack of understanding from building owners or building occupants or tenants about what does it means. There is also a big difficulty from still many barriers for the activation of this potential. But the potential is huge. I just want to give you some figures only for residential buildings. It has been calculated recently by Arthur Little with dynamic electricity price contracts. So the possibility for consumers to engage with retailers that are sending you signals on the fluctuation of the electricity price. Consumers can save up to 50 euros per month. And on top of that, if a consumer has also the possibility to offer this flexibility to the distribution or transmission system operators that they are connected to, they can earn up to 20 euros per month. So this is a question of affordability, to make your building smart, because it can reduce your energy bill. It can actually allow you to get some remuneration. And on top of that, my building can support the operation of grids, can solve congestions, can actually help to keep the system in balance. So it's not only important for our industry, but it's also extremely important, for example, for system operators. Imagine the distribution system operators of Milan. If the DSO of Milan knows the flexibility potential of buildings, because all of them as an SNRI, which score the current capability of their functionality, myself, the DSO, would do everything possible to actually profit from this distributed resource, to help manage the operation of my own grid. And if the potential is low in some parts where I expect that in the next 5 years there will be huge congestion, then I will do everything together with market players, with owners, to increase the flexibility potential of these buildings. So it's putting a figure now in quantitative terms. Ideally, the SRI will be, in qualitative terms. Ideally, the SRI will evolve in quantitative figures to have clear numbers, figures on this crucial functionality of the SRI, which needs to be better scored. And indeed, these are the challenges, but we will talk about them later on.
Yes, thank you. So, Alessio, could you please tell us about what is the impact on the consultants for building services?
This is a time really interesting, because as every innovation is a time where it's possible to succeed to the next step if we make a system. So if we work together in an ecosystem, because clearly we are touching topics that are not yet mature in the market, for standardization, for technology. So it's the key element on how to succeed for the implementation of this new indicator. And to start this for us as a consultant engineering company, it's really important to fix which is the business case. Because from one side, you have some interest from financial point of view. From another side, you need to have a reliable specification. So in this are the tricky part, because clearly has, let's say, it's a consolidation of business, you know, on how to ask to get an answer for a specific topic. But in this case, we are in the middle of these phases where from one side is clear the direction from Europe, from another side, the industrial partner is not yet completely aware of the options and opportunity. So this is, let's say, a key aspect that is really important. So the simple answer is being close to the client, so the commitment, and try to understand the value chain in terms of ecosystem, how can fix the reasonable business case that month by month, year by year will change.
Thank you, Alessio. Cecilia?
Thank you, Bonnie. Good morning.
Well, I think that from the construction point of view, from a construction company point of view, SRI will be a real revolution, because the center of our work will be transformed from an infrastructure to performance that we have to give to our clients. Teikos is a company specialized in energy renovation, so we work a lot with public authorities in school, educational, cultural buildings, and also in residential building. And it's really interesting in the relationship of our clients how it works when, of course, during the renovation, we create the infrastructure in order to have energy efficiency, a greatest comfort, but then somehow is up to our client to use the smart technologies we provide in order to reach the performance expected to. And this is a very delicate moment, and I think we have to work a lot on that. And I would like to tell you just a story that happened here in Milan, in a school where it's quite easier than in residential buildings. A school is a property of the municipality of Milan, an innovative project, because it was the first project managed in BIM, Building Information Model, okay. Here in Milan, the renovation brought the school from class G to nearly zero energy building. It was a building of the late 70s, so very huge buildings, and a volume that it was very difficult to arrive to a good level of energy efficiency. So, of course, it was a deep renovation. So we replaced the windows, insulation of all the building, opaque envelope, and a quite upgraded system of control and automation in ventilation, heating system, heat pump, well, everything you have to put in order to arrive to a nearly zero energy building. We delivered the school with a manual explaining how it should be used. And of course, the idea was these very huge and heavy windows shouldn't be opened every day 2 or 3 times, because of course, the balance of the system, of the building system, it was quite delicate, and it should be managed by professionals who knows how to operate the system. This last 2 months. So now 10 years are passed. No one is happy with the building. The windows doesn't work very well because they are used, as they were used before the renovation. So I think that we really need a cultural revolution and education program also for who use these buildings after the renovation. And this is really a challenge, I think.
Yeah. So we'll move to Luca now. Luca, how about you? What is the impact on your activities?
Thanks, Bonnie. Good morning again. I speak as CINEA, in particular the Energy Efficiency Department that acts the role of National Agency for Energy Efficiency. So let me start with if we think to the impact. I can give some numbers. For example, the number of buildings that will be interested by the first obligation in 2027. Within Tunis project, we evaluate the impact assessment of some policies, of some policy options. And in this case, we calculate that in Italy, there are 500,000 buildings in non-residential sectors, or over 290 kilowatts. So this is a significant value because it is 1/3, almost 1/3 of all non-residential buildings in Italy. So there will be a lot of work, and the impact from our side is in these terms, the large number of buildings. A lot of work also will be carried out by assessors, and we have to decide. Obviously, it's a legislative decision, but who will be the assessors? Ad hoc trained EPC assessors, or other figures that in Italy are in definition, like BECS expert or system integrator and so on. So this is a figure to define. But again, I mentioned the Tunis project because the effort is to avoid some issues encountered in the EPC certification, because within Tunis project we analyzed that there are some issues for quality, the data quality of EPC, a low quality of the EPC data, and also lack of trust in EPC by building owners. So more control, should be more control about the data also from SRI certification. Competencies of assessors, it's very important to define. If we read the first document of standardization of SRI procedure by Smart Square project, there are a lot of competencies in building management, very specific. So it's important to define this. And about the lack of trust, now for EPC, for SRI, we should work on raising awareness and program, specific program to this.
Thank you, Luca. Thank you for these really important points. So I would like to start the second poll, please. And the question is, which SRI tools or project deliverables have you used or found most useful so far? So we have had the presentations from different projects just in the previous two sessions, and it is interesting to know who and how satisfied perhaps they are with these tools that are produced in the projects, and who is using these tools. Thank you. I can see training. However, we have had training modules in a few projects. So may I ask you to be a bit more specific? I'm curious to know whether the project participants are voting for their own project and raising the the numbers. It is also interesting to know, but I can see that we have a competition between Smart Ready Go and SRI to Market. Okay. However, as Smart Ready Go is a calculation tool and SRI to Market is a project and not a tool. So, okay. Perhaps we can stop. Thank you very much. Thank you. So let's move to the second part, and we are getting shorter in time, actually. So your responses this time are maximum 2 minutes. And the question is, what do you need, you in your specific industry, to support you with the successful introduction, implementation of the Smart Readiness Indicator? So you can talk European-wide or just in Italy or in the markets you are, in the industry certainly. So let's start again in the same order.
Thank you, Bonnie. I think we have three overarching things that we'd like to mention from our industry, kind of compiling all of the things that we need, but I would say it's in three parts. Number one is standardized service catalogs and templates and evidence, and this is sort of what the projects are working towards, clear technology neutral descriptions of the capabilities that provide all of the stakeholders that are here and others with the same language across the EU, so at the EU level. So we're really grateful for what the projects are doing. However, really important, especially as we move into the implementation phase from the testing, that we ensure that, again, there is coherence, that the common methodology is followed, and that we use the same definitions as much as possible across the EU. That brings me to the second point, which is that member states, of course, have some leverage in terms of how they implement this, and they have some leverage also in terms of what services, what weighing factors they give to what services. So when they do diverge from this common methodology, we need a mapping across the EU as an industry, so we can provide our services and technologies as much as possible while understanding that we're still following the same definitions, and if there is a divergence in scores, why that occurs. So we need a mapping and translation of these divergences across the EU ultimately. And finally, and that was brought up here today as well, of course, it is skills and training. We need competent assessors that know what they're doing. And here, the industry can also provide our expertise, our checklists, our guidance, and we're trying to do that. And also through being involved in some of the projects and some of the developments here to provide that expertise, because as mentioned before, of course, the Smart Readiness Indicator relies on many of the building automation controls capabilities. And there are existing standards like the EN 52120 that maps very closely to the SRI, and this should, as much as possible, mirror standards like this. So in short, common rules, shared vocabulary, and trained people. With those pieces in place, we think that SRI is not just a label that we expect nice things from in the future, but actually becomes scalable market mechanism that will work for all of the stakeholders in the value chain.
Thank you, Gus.
Thanks, Bonnie. I agree with the points that Gus highlighted. Indeed, we needed to have a common EU methodology on the SRI implementation. And already this EU methodology should allow all the adjustment in the methodology that could be indeed allowing the geographical or climate specificities. But this European methodology, unique, harmonized, should be the core reference model. We are not interested in having 27 little schemes that we cannot compare. We are in the European Union. So we needed to have something that is tangible, clear, solid, and replicable. Training is also extremely important. And as I was saying before, the training for an assessor to be capable of scoring the flexibility functionality is extremely crucial. There is a lack of knowledge on that. And indeed, last year I was asking to an assessor that made indeed an SRI score on a building, on a non-residential building, and asked, so what is the SRI functionality? Well, it was very low, and he said, yes, because there is no smart meter. Well, smart meters are not an essential feature for having a building flexible. And also I heard in some presentation before that a building is flexible only if there is an on-site renewable generation and storage. That's not true. You will increase the flexibility potential of a building with that feature, but also with a heating system only, with HVAC system, you could be flexible. This is a flexible loads. So that's a lot of understanding, that's a lot of training. So I hope that the trainings that are done are specifically looking at these aspects. Otherwise, indeed, the assessor are gonna give a wrong score and it's a vicious cycle.
Thank you, Michael. Please, Alessio.
So fully agree with my predecessor. So what I would like to add is clearly that by having a financial support will help a lot the implementation of introduction. So I'm thinking about incentives. So this is something that can help the consulting phases and also the engineering phases on try to accelerate the return on investment, because this is clearly a question of how the company from one side is capable to implement on digital infrastructure. And this can be a barrier. From another side, the methodology, as already mentioned, it's also something that has to be consolidated in the meantime. So by having the pushing and the help of incentives will definitely help on accelerating these phases where we are today.
Thank you, Alessio. Cecilia?
Thank you. Of course, I agree with everything. I would like to add one more element. I mean, I think we have all the value chain of the building sector. We should focus that the system is the single building we are working on. And so we need to find data platforms or control systems that allows users to have all technologies that are present in that building, in that flat, controlled in an easy way. We have to think and to concentrate in performance of that single building. And then we don't have to forget that 90% of the building stock we will use in 2050 is already been built. So our system should be designed not for new buildings, because there, I mean, it's too easy. But what we really would deal is with the old buildings that maybe has not the infrastructure for being managed for smart technologies, but this should be our focus. And then I would like to underline another time this educational, cultural point of view that I underlined before. I think we should consider it very with a lot of attention. And I'm just thinking that in the last year, in several projects, we introduced, for example, heat pump in place of boilers, gas boilers. This is the cultural revolution that people, it's very difficult for them to understand, because we are so used to feel the heat when it comes out from my boiler, my heating system, that if I don't feel the heat, I'm the user of the building, I think that the system, it doesn't work. And so we have a lot of problems, of issues we have to come back several times, because the system is quite is forced by users in order to work as they think it should work. And I think this is another issue that we should address, because it takes a long time to change the way people really live and interact with the environment.
Yes, thank you, Cecilia. And Luca?
Okay. From our point of view, SRI obviously should be mandatory to motivate the building owner, because I think currently there is an approach, a wait and see approach by building owners. So so
this should move the interest and so on. I agree with Alessio about the SRI could be linked to some incentives, for example, to incentive to achieve a specific SRI score, or I don't know, rewards or bonus point if you again achieve an SRI score. So this is the economic motivation, the motivator in this case. From technical point of view, the support I think should be done on the methodology. In particular, there are some services and functionality levels difficult to to interpret. The interpretation is difficult. So, for example, some showcases, guidelines can help the professional, because we are facing this challenge. The other challenge during the assessment is the data accessibility about the technical building systems, especially existing buildings or I don't know, historical buildings. It's very difficult to access data to properly score SRI. So we have to work to access to this data. Yes, this is about the methodology. Again, this is important to that two different assessors should score the same SRI. So, again, guidelines, training, showcases are important for this topic.
Thank you, Luca. So now is the time for the next and last poll. And the question is, what are the biggest challenges to implement and scale the Smart Readiness Indicator in your context? So whichever stakeholder you're here in whichever role, please, you should see a menu with different options. Please select one. I think we have a clear winner. Thank you. So now is the time to really wrap it up. And that's a challenge because each one of you has just 1 minute to actually tell us, how does the Smart Readiness Indicator drive sustainable buildings? We are here at the Sustainable Places conference, so it is an easy question, isn't it? Same order, please.
Sure. I think, again, I'll do 3 pillars as I did before, and plus flexibility, I think, as well, that we cannot forget. I think number 1, how it drives sustainability is it provides efficiency that sticks. So we do not have one-time assessment. As I said, it encourages ongoing control and monitoring, fault detection and diagnostics, which all provide over time efficiency that continues. Second, operational excellence. So analytics not only increase efficiency through energy savings, but also through operations, and make sure that there's less downtime, less complaints, less work for facility managers. So this continues to produce savings year after year, and we also see the reflection in the value of the building. And finally, sustainability, of course, is not just energy efficiency. So we cannot forget indoor environmental quality, which also is something that SRI promotes and brings forward, ensuring that we not only optimize for efficiency, but also we maintain indoor environmental quality. And on top of that, of course, of all of that, encompassing all of that is flexibility, grid integrated buildings. So it supports the energy transition in the whole system, not just in single buildings. So I think if we focus on these things, the promise of SRI is quite simple. It's a trusted and harmonized signal that turns the existing regulatory requirements into actual outcomes in real buildings like this one that deliver for people.
Thank you, Gus.
Well, I would interpret the sustainability goals in two facets. The first one is the reduction of the carbon footprint of a building, and the second one will be the avoided stress to the grid, so the grid that a building is connected to. And indeed, the SRI can help in that perspective, in particular the flexibility functionalities. If it's helping me to understand how a building can consume more clean electricity when it's abundant in the system, then ultimately is reducing your carbon footprint. So once again, you don't necessarily need to have a PV on site. It will, of course, help reduce the carbon footprint, but if you don't have a PV or any kind of renewables generator on site, you can know when there is more, the carbon content in the network is lower, so this is the moment where you can increase more, also because in that case, electricity will be cheaper. And ultimately, then, if you're doing that, you're not going to create more stress, you're not going to create more peaks in demand in the nexus that they are connected to. So your building can be more sustainable because it's contributing to have a much more efficient system.
Thank you, Michael.
So from our side, we are coming from an era where we adopt technology that has a more efficient technology capability. Now with the implementation of SRE, we could move forward and try to understand through all the parameters that SRI is vehicle, how to use the building. So, and this will increase much more what could be the final results in terms of sustainability if we are looking on the building. So I think this, let's say, is the paradigm that we needed to move on altogether, because it's not only question of material and technology, but people and usage of the space. So we are going within a sustainability that are also touching the human aspect in terms of usage of a space.
Thank you, Alessio. Cecilia?
Yes, I completely agree with Alessio, and this the statement I started with. We are moving from evaluating an infrastructure to evaluating how this infrastructure is used, and so the performance. So of course, we expect that this will bring a lower impact and to reach really the decarbonization of the building stock.
Thank you.
I believe that SRI is a key strategic lever for the digitalization of the sector, paving the way for buildings more sustainable, but also more efficient, more connected, and more focused on human needs. This is an important novelty of this indicator. Moreover, SRI could be a decision-making tool to understand the intervention, the improvement to that maximize energy efficiency in the building sector, because we know that the introduction of smart technology is the most effective, most economic implementation among the energy efficiency solution. So this is a driver for this.
Thank you. So thank you very much to all of you. Now I would like to actually open a Q&A session. I probably should have announced that at the very beginning. The audience online could simply type their question, and if we have few courageous people in the audience in person, please feel free to ask this panel any question you might have in relation to the SRI market intake. Please raise your hand if... Okay, Andrew.
Hello? Yeah. So EPC ratings, I think, Gus, you mentioned that you want to take lessons learned from that. It took us many years and building owners many years to prove that a better EPC rating or energy efficiency brought a green premium when leasing space. How are you going to address that for SRI to prove that it really brings additional value?
Anyone that wants to answer? Yes, do you? Okay. We'll just share.
Merge the two. So why to have something developed in parallel? So we need to have simplicity. Otherwise, for different reasons, you know, a consumer is gonna, a building owner or occupant is gonna receive one certificate, one indicator. What's the difference between the two? So indeed, learn by doing, merge the two, strengthen the certificate that will be provided. That's gonna help save money and be much more reliable.
Absolutely can agree with that. I think we need to piggyback on the existing sort of success as much as it exists of EPC, but at the same time, as I said, not repeating the mistakes. So I think we're already doing that in this testing phase. The whole purpose of it is to understand where there might be some challenges, where there might be some divergences necessary, but try to prevent them as much as possible by providing early guidance, early templates, early training systems, digital tools that have been established, but then try to also ensure that they follow the common methodology. So piggyback on what's done with EPC, but on top of that, avoid the mistakes. I think that's how we create it as an added value to building owners and investors, instead of having another regulatory burden.
Yes, and I'll give you my 2 cents. So this is just the initial phase. So we need to start somewhere. Once we have these smart capabilities in buildings, then I think the second part would be easy, because then we can actually define, and some of the KPIs are already defined, and we can absolutely measure and prove that there is an improvement, whether it's in energy efficiency or in maintenance costs or in the comfort of the occupants or in the gains. Actually, you could be rewarded from participating in the energy system, contributing to the energy system. And this is what we all want. So yes, take it as a first step, and we'll get there together. Another question? Yeah.
Hi, good morning. Massimo Leonardo from PwC. My question is connected to your last answer. The SRI will be a contribution towards common methodologies, common KPIs, common data, I would say. My question is regarding the technology. I mean, the real capabilities to exchange this data during the implementation phase, to let different asset manufacturers and technologies exchange data, use a single platform. I mean, the question is, how mature do you see the technological model underlying this methodology? And do you think the technology is ready in order to really support the implementation of the SRI?
Thank you for the question. Anyone that wants to answer? Yes.
As mentioned before, so what will be really important is to fix which is the business case when we want to establish with the client. And according with this, try to understand the ecosystem of player, because each player can play a role as barrier for entrance of this new business case. And we needed to be sure that project by project, especially till we don't have a common understanding of this methodology, this process, we needed to defend the project by project with an individual specific team of work as an ecosystem. So will be really important try to structure a collaborative approach, especially at the beginning.
If I can add perhaps quickly.
Yes, please.
Just to say that technology, like to answer directly, technology is absolutely there. The technology is ready. I think what perhaps we can work more on is a common set of rules as well. You mentioned data sharing. It's important that we do follow also here international standards that the companies already are ready to follow. The technologies are capable of that. But this is also where either international standardization bodies, or where not possible through standardization bodies, also regulation steps in through things like Data Act, data exchange provisions, and other regulation that will help enhance this data sharing as well.
Yes, in my presentation this morning, I show the results of a survey to stakeholders about the state of the art of technologies currently available on the market. And the results show that there are some technologies ready in the market, but not so diffused. And the devices, services related to grid flexibility cannot be implemented currently. So there is a problem of some, an issue about the implementation currently. But the SRI will be unlock some investment in these fields, hopefully.
Can I comment on this specific aspect? So we are talking about the readiness of a building to be, in particular, flexible. Okay, so a building can be very ready to be flexible. Then, of course, the complementing and the missing aspects is that maybe there are no signals from the systems to activate this flexibility. But this is another thing. And but the SRI, as it is now, is fully and already capable with the current methodology to also provide that value of that specific functionality. Then, if the readiness become transformed from a potential to a natural activation, that's another story. And I totally agree that across Europe, there is a problem on having a market-based activation of the flexibility, but that's indeed the market design aspect.
Yeah, I talk about readiness. Yes.
Okay, thank you. One last question.
Oh, great. Thomas Zervi, R2M. And let's finish with the business, if we could do it. The question is, how much should an SRI assessment cost? And the assessment are consultants that are going around the building and spending time. And just to give some context, the LEED certification for a building such as this one has a certain value. And that allows a team of engineers and professionals to spend a certain amount of time producing a good result. Sometimes we hear, maybe if you have a residential apartment, that someone comes in and does an energy audit or an EPC certificate. It's just a signed piece of paper. Maybe there's a lack of thought or professional preparation. It's just something to get done because to transact the property, I have to have it. So to roll back to the question, as we think of bringing the SRI to the market, how do we think about how much the SRI should cost, the assessment?
So I allow myself to start with the answer, and then perhaps my colleagues here can contribute as well. So as you know, in LEED, it's based on the square meters of the building. So your question is very wide. So depends on the size of the building. In this case, it depends on the complexity of the building. So it could be a small building per floor area, but it might be very complex. So that's why we have in LEED different building types and so on. So we are not that advanced with the SRI. We don't have, non-residential, residential, whether it's a hospital or a hotel or an office building. So it is very hard to give you a ballpark on that. So I think that an average, because I have assessed buildings as well, maybe half a day to 2 days work, but I think at the moment we need to focus on what's written in the regulation. So we need to focus first on the non-residential buildings over 290 kilowatts. And we already have prerequisites. If we meet some of the other provisions of the PBD or the other directives at European level, then we'll be better prepared and we'll use less time, really. Availability of data is another thing. If you have the data ready, well, half a day. If you have to go and dig and research by yourself, then it becomes more expensive.
Just to quickly complement, and it's not directly answering your question, but I just wanted to say that we need to think and keep things in perspective. Like all of the capabilities that we're talking about here and provide all of these great benefits to buildings, both in efficiency, cost savings, comfort, etc. Studies have shown that the total cost of those, of course, if we take out, the existing technical building system costs, but the capabilities of automation and enabling this building automation control, it's 2% on average of a total construction cost. And then the assessment itself is going to be even, a fraction of that. So we need to keep the proportion in mind, and it's a negligible cost compared to what we can actually gain out of that. So just
few words. So at the end, we are speaking about a performance contracting. So means that as today, usually we have as a reference business as usual. So we start our calculation with this sentence. Means we use this building in this way. Make your proposal. With the Smart Readiness Indicator, we can move forward and start to say performance contracting, return of investment, which kind of new use you can implement it. So this is also a way to try to structure the way to come to some economical aspect.
Sorry, very quickly, I think we should consider also the time. I mean, when a building, the lifetime of a building is, 100 to 100 years. In Europe, the substitution rate of the buildings is 0.1% per year. So once you have a building, there it is. And the EPC or the renovation passport, all these documents should be changed every time you do a renovation. But if not, during 10 years, you can have the same one. How often we should assess another time the SRI? Because I think there is quite interesting, this point. Thank you.
Okay, I'm aware I'm over time, so, I don't like that. So just to perhaps wrap up really is, actually, if we use the synergies between the different assessment in the building, it's going to be really cheap, maybe for free. These smart technologies and capabilities should have been already part of the EPC assessment. So, 0. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you to the panelists. It was super interesting, and I'm pretty sure that we can continue also this discussion during lunch. But before closing, we have some closing remarks by Andrew Fitzpatrick, representing Brandbox AI, and is going to share his perspective also on how AI impacts smart buildings and the link with the SRI. Thank you.
Hello. All right, 5 minutes between all of us and lunch. So I'm Andrew Fitzpatrick, Director of Business Development for Brainbox AI. If you didn't hear my talk yesterday, quickly, Brainbox AI is a global scale-up that deploys an AI solution to reduce the energy consumption within a building to make it greener, more intelligent, and easier to use. I'll speak a bit about the solution and how we've been able to deliver some strong results for an SIR certificate audit. But first, some key themes from the whole day that I think are very relevant to the closing remarks today. Standardization. Gus mentioned it. Please standardize. As a supplier, I cannot keep track of all the different certifications, audits, labels out there. So I'll talk a bit about that global fragmentation. The so what of it all. Why are we doing this? What business value, what business growth is this going to drive? Obviously, we can reduce energy. We can make a building more sustainable. That drives green premiums. What can the SRI deliver? Arcadis gave a very good example of the social value the SRI can deliver. And finally, leaving the SRI open for improvements. There's nothing I hate more than seeing a score of 100%. So I was very happy to see lots of scores under 80% or under 50%, because there is room to grow from there. So speaking first off about that global fragmentation today, as a global player, we have experience in different markets. The European arena does have fragmentation, but at least there's some coherence. Across the US and Canada, we see city laws, we see state laws, provincial laws. A lot of this has to deal with reducing pollution. So at least the EU has a leg up there. Some interesting EU law that I've come across, there's the minimum energy efficiency standards in the UK. Essentially, by 2030, if your building doesn't hold an EPC B or C, you can't lease it, or there's penalties for leasing it. In France, there's tertiary decree. Same thing, by 2030, if you do not decrease your energy efficiency or decrease your energy consumption by 40%, there's a fine, there's naming and shaming. I always wonder what the name and shame will be. Is it a list that you can find somewhere? Something that you hang from the Eiffel Tower that lists all the companies that aren't meeting the requirements? Anyway, there's that, and then there's obviously the global standards, LEED, BREEAM, etc. The problem with those, though, I find they're in the design phase. They're static. I always compare this to if you go through renovation, you're installing new windows that are double glazed, but if you leave those windows open all the time, how efficient has that renovation actually been? So anyway, there's work to do there, but please standardize. I hope the SRI works and we can standardize that. I wanted to share a quick case study to show the practicality of deploying smart technology in a building and the value that it can drive. We've worked with our partner R2M here in Italy on La Forgiatura. The goal of this project was reduce energy consumption and assess the building for an SRI score. So how does the AI help? How did the technology get deployed? The first thing that we do is we take all the internal data of a building and we learn how each and every zone of the building actually behaves. I don't think the animations are working properly here, so I'll just skip through to the results. Essentially, we learn how each zone of a building actually behaves. We can predict what will happen, and then we deploy smart algorithms. So in this building, on the fan coil units, the AHUs, the heat pumps, to drive down energy reductions. Over 3 years, we have an average reduction of 26.8%. So that's driving reduction in operational costs, obviously, but it's also it makes the building more appealing as well to the customers and tenants who are paying for that space. When we look at this from an SRI perspective, There's a list of all the improvements that we drove there in terms of making it more dynamic. The AI is a tool that you can use to bring more intelligent strategies. We actually helped the building go from a class F to a class E, from 25% score to 40% score. So that's a 60% improvement, with significant improvements to the energy optimization phase, the comfort and occupancy engagement, and leaving room open for energy flexibility. Michael was mentioning, if we have a signal from the grid, how can we intelligently and more dynamically use the building to de-stress that grid? That's something that I'd be very keen to explore. And finally, the SRI is there to be modular. It's not just an audit, it's a pathway. So I was very glad to hear that it's open to adaptability. Obviously, working in AI is moving so fast, it's difficult to track everything that's happening. So I hope that the SRI can keep up with all the AI technologies out there. Some key themes that we're seeing in the market today is agentic AI. So we're deploying Aria, a virtual building engineer, to help teams be more proactive in how they manage the facilities. We're looking at small language models. So we hear LLMs a lot. That's like ChatGPT. But a building engineer doesn't need to know how to make a tiramisu. He just needs to know how to fix a piece of equipment. So small language models can act quicker and have a smaller carbon footprint. We have reasoning, so we can, anyway, that's just to show that we can remember the previous prompts so that the AI is more tailored to you. And finally, the most important, ethical guidelines. We talk about safe AI. We have an AI lab at Brainbox AI within Train Technologies, our parent company, that is tracking these because we want to make sure that the AI is deployed safely for everyone to use without bias. So I want to leave you with those thoughts, and I hope the SRI starts to think about that as their journey begins. Thank you, and I was going to say bon appetit, that's French, but anyway, I hope to network later.
Thank you very much to all the moderators, to the speakers, to the audience. We continue talking about the SRI this afternoon. There will be some workshops with tools that are going to be demonstrated, other topics. Also tomorrow there is a paper session on the SRI, so it's really a hot topic here at Sustainable Places. And there is also a policy event that is organized in Brussels on the 22nd of October. So if you're not registered, you can sign up. You can visit the SRI webpage on the European Commission website. And we hope also to see you there. And we will discuss more the policy aspects of the SRI. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the conference.